Mama said don't talk to strangers. That's okay. We'll do it for you. Welcome to the Bar Talk Podcast, where we talk to interesting people doing interesting shit. Thanks for coming in, bud.
You're very welcome.
Big
Been a
Al.
long time coming.
Big Al in the house. Yeah, we've been talking about this for a while.
We have, yeah. It's when you manifest it, all of a sudden, eventually, boom, it appears. Here we are.
Here we are.
I'm
good.
thrilled to be here. Cheers,
Cheers,
Les.
man. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
So Big Al and Big Al's friends with everybody.
It seems
Everybody knows Big Al.
even if I don't know them. There's been a few.
Right.
I'm going, sorry, I don't remember you, my dear. Yeah. But it seems to be a little more memorable to find a Big Al in the world than it is to every Jason or Jonathan or Sarah or something or other. I don't know. I meet a lot of them.
Their traits right in the name.
Seems to be.
Big Al. I remember waking up. I think I got a phone call. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning one time. One of my friends was calling me drunk from the Yukon because he ran into you in a bar. I just saw one of your friends.
Right?
What was that bar? That bar?
The Pit.
The
Pit. Westminster Hotel.
And there's something about like a toe in a jar or something.
There is, but that one's actually at the Sourdough Saloon, which is the sourdough cocktail. Severed human toe that's been essentially dehydrated, kept in salt, but you put it in a shot of alcohol and you can drink it fast, you can drink it slow. Either way, your lips must touch the toe.
And how many lips have touched that toe?
Right now, I was just talking to Terry, the toe captain, and there's like 112,000.
Holy shit.
On this,
so this is the type of people that live in that part of the world.
They're a little bit crazy.
You drink a drink with a used toe in the glass?
Used and no longer attached to the original owner.
And how long ago is that? Like a long time.
Well, the original one would have been found by Captain Dick Stevenson.
Original?
There's
been more than one toe?
There's been more than one toe. Yeah, some people have actually swallowed the human toe. It's gross. One of my good friends, Louisiana Josh, he was the first one in recent memory that was just like, you know what? Yep, here you go. Slid down the money, popped the toe in his mouth.
About it.
Right?
Accidental cannibalism.
Premeditated almost, but yeah. An accident that just is a happy accident if you're into that, because you don't find a regular toe anywhere.
How do you replace that?
Well, you'd be surprised. There are people that have donated their toes.
What?
One of them was like a
good
German
toe, or there's something wrong with my toe, so you can have it. Because I don't think I don't want to drink a regular toe, but I really don't want to drink someone's fucked up toe.
Yeah, funky toe. Some of them have been willed. Like the person is dead, no longer with us.
Like a cadaver toe.
There is one fella, I don't know his name, but they have the Yukon Quest, which is a dog sled race that runs from Whitehorse to Fairbanks and vice versa. And after they run the dog sled race, they have an ultra race. So people with fat bikes or like running, when they're pulling a little sledge, will race the race route, right? And so this, I believe he's German, ultra marathoner, like got 2 frostbitten toes amputated, and so he's the only person that has done a sourdough cocktail with his own toe in the cocktail.
That's legend,
right? I mean,
that's legend status.
I don't know if you want to try and compete with that. That's
I don't want to compete with that. I'm going to keep my toes where they are.
That record is his.
Keep my toes out of a shot glass.
Well, even if you do it now, you can never be the first.
No, right? You're not. You're no longer the first.
There's no joy in being second, especially in that race.
So with the original one, Dick Stevenson found it in a glass or a little mason jar of alcohol in an old trapper's cabin out in the wilderness. So Buddy had obviously lost his, got frostbite and with an axe and amputated his toe and just didn't have the heart to throw it in the fire, I guess. So he put it in a little mason jar of alcohol and put it on his shelf. And then Captain Dick found it, and it was like, they were all, Dawson City is a drinking town with a gold mining problem, right? Like, so there's a lot of alcoholics and a lot of alcohol shenanigans and a lot of great ideas that were born out of a terrible drunk. So it was just more of, hey, this is a show, this is a funny thing. You either are a chichaco, which means you fly up and you spend the summer and you talk about how great the Yukon is, and then you leave, or you're a sourdough. And Rummy's a sourdough. That's my dog. Hey, Rumbo. Yeah. What's this?
Rummy's a star here.
Oh, goodness. Hey, Rumsky Doodles. What do you think?
She didn't like all the attention on the toes.
No, that's what it was.
She wants a little of the attention herself. You want to introduce Rummy?
Rumsky Doodles. Hey,
Yeah.
where are you? Come here.
And explain
Rummy
why Rummy is so important
goodness.
in the work. Well, first of all, we'll tell people what you do. So the reason you're up in the Yukon is because you're prospecting for gold and copper.
I
right?
do, yeah. And I don't do the specific prospecting, but the prospectors and the biologists and the environmental scientists that go out to gather the information, they tend to have a lot of letters and numbers and all kinds of fancy things beside their name, but they're not incredibly proficient at being in the wilderness.
You don't have to be polite.
Yeah, no, they're no good at
So they need
survival.
like a man that's part grizzly bear himself,
Basically, yeah.
to help them through the nature.
long cold nights, right?
Right, yeah.
So for the most part, when things are good, I help them label bottles and keep track of stuff and take some samples and fill it up or pick berries or seeds or whatever they're doing. But I tell them straight up, I don't really want to learn the fine points, the scientific reasons why you're doing what you're doing. I don't want to be a water scientist, right?
Yeah.
But if weather comes in and the chopper's not coming to pick us up, or if you happen to roll your ankle and we're in a tough spot where the chopper can't get to us, I'm the one who's going to set up camp or, pick you up and carry you and
Fix
take you.
things.
Yeah, fix things.
There's not parts available.
No,
You're
exactly.
like the redneck they need to get through.
A human Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, you think a lot of thinking on the fly, a lot of unconventional fixes, a lot of modifications of whatever it is you have on hand to solve the problem that has just arisen.
Basically, just like growing up poor.
Yeah, and figuring it out.
Yeah, like
exactly.
Well, you've worked on the farm with me a bit. And it's just what you do as a farmer. You just figure shit out.
You can't run to town all the time. Same as
No.
fishing. When you're out there, you have what you have,
Yeah.
and you got to make it work.
Yeah.
So it's similar to get an hour and a half airplane ride out in the wilderness and then get dropped off at the bush camp and have a 20-minute helicopter ride out into the wilderness.
Yeah.
Well, there's no convenience
there's no
store.
Home Depot
No,
right there.
You have what you have,
Yeah.
and experience says you should bring a few extra things that you probably don't think you need, but guess
Yeah.
what? You'll inevitably
But
find them useful.
I suppose shipping everything is difficult, right? Because you're like your space.
Oh, man.
Because
Yeah.
flying things in and out with helicopters is not easy.
No, it's not cheap.
But your life might depend on the project. Might depend on a part that is in the nearest. Where's the nearest big city?
Whitehorse would be the
yeah.
city center. Yeah, it's and then like an hour and 20-minute by like a Caravan, high performance airplane.
Wow.
Flies fast.
And how big is Whitehorse?
Whitehorse is about 24,000, 25,000,
That's not
something
even
like that.
really a city.
No, it's not. Like the whole population of the Yukon's 42, 43.
Wow.
Yeah, something like that. So half of the population of the Yukon lives in
Yeah.
Whitehorse.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's like a Truro-ish kind of size.
Okay.
not
Which would
much
be a
bigger,
big city up there.
right?
Yeah.
Compared
Because more
to towns.
people have heard of Whitehorse than they've heard of Truro.
It's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's probably more people in Truro than Whitehorse. 'Cause every other community is like 400 people to say like Dawson's at like 2,500
Yeah.
year-round residents and
Wow.
blooms
That's like
in the
Digby,
summer.
right? Yeah.
A little bit smaller, more of a Annapolis Royal vibe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of historic and quirky and artsy and hillbilly all at the same
Well,
time.
you got to be a little bit unique to even want to be up there.
This is true.
Sounds like
This is
fun
true.
to me.
Right?
Sounds like fun. You want to drink the toe?
I would 100% do that.
What I've always said in my mind is like if you took Bear River, Nova Scotia, and Argyle Street, Halifax, and put them together and they had a child and exiled it up north, that's what Dawson City is. You'd name it Dawson and call it your illegitimate son and just say, well, you're a little bit of a wild one.
A bit of a wild one.
To make it that, in the beginning, even when they had the gold rush, and all of a sudden there's 40,000 people out of the hundreds of thousands that started out, whether you made it rich or successful, mining the miners or whatever you did, you were there. So there's a certain level of camaraderie and a certain level of understanding and eye contact and handshake that just says, you might be a total buffoon and have lost your whole outfit, but you're here at the table. You'll drink with me. Maybe I made millions today. I'm going to be in debt, by the time I leave, right? We're all here together.
Oh, I imagine the characters there are unreal.
They still are. The colorful 5% is what an artist, Jim Robb, coined them to be. And some would say that maybe I fall into that category. And I would say, I'm not. I'm a pastel. They're
Really?
vibrant, crazy colors. The people, like Captain Donnie Flynn or Captain Dick or Darwin Van Bibber or, Mr. Gold.
They
Troy
sound
Canoe.
like characters.
Yeah, they're all wild. They're all
Yeah.
just really out there. And it was even more so in the beginning during the gold rush than it is now, I think. But it's like a 2.0 or the new generation of weirdos,
Yeah.
right? Everybody kind of, they're very accepting, very, I don't want to say avant-garde or off the cuff or whatever, because they aren't. They're just normal humans, but they don't do things the way that the rest of the world does. They're a little bit different.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, a lot more accepting.
I read a book last year called the Molecule of More, Dopamine, the Molecule of More. And they talked about how, like, North America, is my sound okay there, Ben? It feels a little bit
Check.
Yeah.
Check the
Feel like
OR. How you
is
like
it
me so
balanced?
far?
It sounds all right to me. But
Okay.
Leave a
Maybe
comment if
sound
you
a
can't. If
gonna be
you've been
too late.
reading Les's
We're
lips.
not live.
Yeah, right.
So this Dopamine, the Molecule of More, in this book, they talked about how immigrant countries like us, we have more dopaminergic people. So like people that need that dopamine. So like for example, during the potato famine in Ireland, you might have brothers and one of them just like, yeah, we're just going to stay here and hunker down and get through. But you have another brother who's like, fuck this, I'm going to America. So then you get a lot of the really ambitious, crazy, wild people that are chasing that.
The genetic strain. It's over
come
here.
here. And then the even wilder ones continue into the forest, into these more remote places. They're the ones that are like, I can find gold.
I can do
they're
it.
like, and like the highly dopaminergic people are usually like your manic, depressive people,
Right.
like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Creative
the super
types.
highs, super lows.
Super high, super low. I'm gonna get the gold. Yeah, so I think you'd find like it would select for that type of person up there.
The interesting thing I believe about that analogy is that once you're up there, especially in the previous years, I mean, we have chainsaws and snow machines and life's pretty easy, but you still have to chop wood and carry water.
Right.
You still have to engage in your life every day because otherwise, guess what?
Yeah.
You're going to freeze to death,
Not
period.
making it.
You're not making it. You
Rubber
are
hits
going to
the
have
road.
mental health. You are going to go, woe is me. You move into town and plug in an electric heater and stay in a friend's, couch and don't do anything. That's great. Yeah. But otherwise, you are a person that has to engage in day-to-day life. So even if you do get a little depressed, you're still staying active. Right. You're still doing what you need to do and getting that little bit of dopamine through your movement,
Right.
That you won't ever get so depressed. And then when you're out there doing the things that you need to do, you all of a sudden are immersed in nature and the environment and go, wow, look, it's just like daylight at 12 o'clock at night. The moon's out. It's reflecting off the snow. It's so clear. Yeah. I can see 10 trillion stars. Like how blessed am I to be here? Exactly. So, one thing leads to another up there. So you either go straight down the rabbit hole and are totally depressed and just can't handle it. And you probably will only spend one winter there and then leave, right? Or you embrace it and you keep that action, you keep that movement, and the dopamine that comes to you is in maybe a more of a natural state. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody loves to party and drink and, sex, drugs, rock and roll. But there is a whole nother section of people that are getting high off nature and off doing it, going and starting a trap line, going and cutting firewood and bringing it back to town and being completely exhausted, but feeling good about it.
Yeah,
right?
I think that there's so much to that. I think that a lot of us, we're being killed by our comfort a lot. And the further away we get from like responsibility and action and like say nature, the sicker we get, mentally and physically.
Mentally and physically.
Yeah.
I mean,
have a purpose.
It is a purpose, and it's one that you almost don't even know that you need or that you're going to go for. And then a lot of people up there don't even know that that's what is part of why they're feeling better about themselves, why they're doing it. They just know that I have to get up and cut wood today, otherwise I'm going to freeze.
Yeah.
Right. And, simple actions lead to simple rewards. And then, you get better and better with the environment that you're in and move forward as far as the level. Like now all of a sudden you've got hot water heaters that are attached to your wood stove. It's on demand. It's easy. It's effortless. It's all part of the fluid. Your wood box is tied in, so you just have to open a little latch, throw your stuff from the pile outside inside. You're not tracking in a big mess. You've got stuff refined down to a science almost, and it makes life really easy.
Yeah, imagine there's people that have been there a long time and know how to do that stuff.
It just is second nature, and they make it look easy.
Yeah.
Right. And you go and try and do it and fail miserably because you're like, this is a lot of work.
You're a pretty capable guy. Like,
Sure.
and
I've
so
done it.
what? How long you been up there?
12 years ago was the first time I made it to the Yukon.
Wow. And how was the adjustment for you?
It's interesting. I didn't see myself as needing to prove anything. I just was going with the flow, and you do what you need to do. There are some people that were like, "Oh, you look like you've been here for 10 years or something like that." I look the same. Doesn't matter if I'm standing in Nova Scotia or in the oil patch in Alberta or BC or up here in the Yukon. But to actually make it through a winter, it's more of a mental game in the beginning, first of all, right? Because you need to find your people. You know, you need to actually engage in the community.
That's the thing. A lot of people don't realize that. Like, you can kind of get by in a city without having contacts, right?
That's true. Yeah,
Because you just turn on your electric heat. You know, you move to the country, and you're going to have a garden and a wood stove. You need people.
You do.
You need to know where the lumber mill is. You need to know who to trust to buy firewood. You need to know where to get your topsoil.
Who's going to help you
borrow
fix your
a
truck.
tiller or whatever. Like, it's a different kind of life.
You got to have a community.
You do.
And the thing about Dawson is that it is beautiful community because it's so far removed from everything else. You know, 6 hours to get to Whitehorse, like 2.5 hours to get to Mayo, and Mayo has like maybe 300 people, maybe 4. It's not really another big community. It's basically a First Nations outpost, right? So the people that you know in Dawson that you make friends with that are going to be your little circle is kind of important. And if you don't have that to begin with, you go to the community dinners, you go to the crazy boat parade, you go to, you know, the Thoughty Gras Spring Festival where there's a lot of alcoholic buffoonery, but there's also people being sober and getting on the tricycle and racing or seeing how far they can chuck a keg or tossing a hard-boiled egg back and forth or playing in the ball hockey.
And there's a lot of fun, but
if
shit goes sideways, you have someone you can count on.
Exactly. You know, at all, but you have to make those friends by going out and investing your time into the community and being silly or, you know, doing whatever or going with the flow, and all of a sudden, hey, you're sleeping on buddy's couch because it's too cold and you're not driving home or whatever, and now you made a friend. You know, you're going over to a dinner party and you're helping them, you know, get some pallets so that they can build a little woodshed or whatever it is because
Imagine
you've got a
there's
truck.
some people that don't adjust well to that.
No, they don't.
They don't understand that sense of community.
And they come up there and get a little apartment, get a little job, go to the bar, go to the grocery store, go to the, you know, artsy fartsy film festival and walk home and say, "Oh, I live in the north. I love this place." You know, I'm going right, but you've never been to the wood lot. You've never
got your rubber boots mixed up with the neighbor.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, you grabbed the wrong one. That happened a couple times where I was like, "Listen, I have slippers and you wore my boots home and you're a size 9 and I'm a size 14. What the hell? Austin, I need my boots back." 2 days later, "Sorry about that, Big Al." Yeah, whatever. They weren't even the same kind of boots.
That's intimacy when someone mixes up your boots.
Oh man, and don't care that they're like 5 sizes larger.
Yeah, it's not a problem for them.
No,
it's a problem.
It's a problem for me. I was stuck in the house for 2 days. Oh, it was terrible. -40 and no boots. Yeah,
that's your memoirs. -40 and no boots.
-40 and no boots. Exactly. Well,
That should be the title of this episode as well.
-40. So it gets -40. Is this we talking with or without wind chill?
Without wind chill. Without wind chill. With wind chill, you know, you can easily get into the low 50s and stuff.
Here, like a bad day is like -20. I've seen it -20 before wind chill. That's bad.
It is bad. They're very similar. The difference being humidity here. It's chilled right through to your bones. You better be wearing wool and moving, and even still, you're cold.
Yeah.
Up there, it's a dry cold. You wear your layers. If you have exposed skin, it's cold. Things do start breaking at -40. That's just the way it is. It's cold. Don't get me wrong. But if you've got layers on and you're bundled up, and say your parka has a hood that rolls forward, and you've got a fur-lined tuff so that wind doesn't get in there, and your breath has kind of keeping this area warm, because that's what the natives would do, and those hairs do a wonderful job. You can still see out of it. I mean, you're making a 90-degree turn to see left and right, but you're not freezing to death. You're warm. You're out of the chilled section. Your skin's not exposed if you have a scarf on or do whatever, and your inner body is relatively warm. Here, no, -20, your inner body is frozen right straight through the bone.
It's brutal.
The humidity is terrible here. So, like, which one's worse? I would say the humidity, right? The dry cold, you dress for it. You can keep moving. You can do it. You can stop, make a fire. It's all good. Here, no, once you're cold,
it's such extremes here in Nova Scotia, because you can have like the humidity of the summer, and it's brutal. because we get some really hot days here in
Oh
the
yeah,
summertime with
be
the
like the
humidity.
Texas or Carolinas or something. Just sweat your ball sack.
Yeah.
right
But none
off.
of it lasts for very long. So you get
No.
like minus 20, but it doesn't last for very long.
No.
You
No.
get, you know,
Yeah,
like you're in Florida or whatever, but it's only for like a week or two.
there's a long days.
The way the winters are working up there now is like you'll get 2 weeks around December, January-ish, and that will be like a hard hitting minus 40, minus 47, whatever, coldest place on the planet. And then that's pretty much your cold snap is done. It'll go back to the 30s for the rest of the winter, and then it starts warming up, and the 20s feels tropical, you know, and there's sunshine and longer daylight hours, and you still have all the snow. It's kind of like the best part of the winter because you can still run snow machines and go out and trap line and cross country ski and do all that lovely stuff, but it's not dark, which is what's happening now. It's getting dark, and it's not super cold, right?
Yeah.
That happened in the January.
So you usually come home for like the worst part of the winter, right?
Just
Compared
these
to Nova
last couple
Scotia?
years since COVID,
Yeah.
since COVID,
Okay.
come home,
and,
spend
and
time
why
with
is that?
my
Just
mom.
too difficult up there to? Are they still operating?
Oh yeah,
Oh, wow.
Dawson's still doing its thing.
They're still going. Minus 40 won't slow them down.
Well, no. With the environmental assessment work, like there's specific times. So
okay.
they plan, we have to go out for these 4 days. If Mother Nature says it's minus 40 during those 4 days, I guess that's what we're putting up with, right? But otherwise, it's not like a specific 9 to 5 month. That's in the summertime. Now we're
Okay.
just going out and gathering some data at certain intervals
Okay.
to keep their data flowing, right? Winter months, you need to know what's going on
Right.
with the water table or with the temperatures or whatever. It's just
So you're working with the company that's going for the gold and the copper, but you're like assisting the scientists to make sure that all the environmental stuff is
correct.
That's a big part of your
Yeah,
job. That's
that-
cool.
That's what they're doing. They have been hired through their company to come and gather environmental data, right? The parent company, Western Copper and Gold, has employed me as a contractor to go and assist them with the wilderness side of things, you know, the guiding side, where
Cool.
it's just, I help them collect the data, but my main goal and purpose is to, while their nose is in a book taking notes, I'm looking around the environment, just seeing if things are changing, just seeing if, there's a caribou down there, we should just pay attention to that, you know? I mean, I have Rummy, and she's such a integral part of it. There's nothing
Yeah.
that's coming within 30 meters of us without
Right.
her sounding the alarm, catching the scent, hearing the noise long before we would ever.
Right. That's
But-
why I want to introduce her and her role.
Oh, she's over there having a nap
She's
right now,
good
but-
now, but why is it so important to have a dog like Rummy?
She's a Karelian bear dog, which is a primitive breed. And basically, the Karelian Mountains is in Finland. And they're kind of bred to hunt big game. I could train her more than I have, but the part that you don't need to train them for is the primal, primitive instincts about a bear is she's guarding her person, her people from that bear, like puts the run to it, challenges it, would fight it in a heartbeat. Best day at the office for her ever. And the way that her coat is and the way that she moves, it'd be like grabbing the back of my shirt. Well, you're not really doing any damage to me.
Yeah.
I can still spin around. You haven't done a
'cause
death blow.
When you were
haven't-
visiting last year, you got me to feel like the back of her neck is this huge mass of like skin and fat and fur.
fur and fat, and there's no vital
So that's to
organs.
protect her in the case of a bear fight.
If a
And
bear
she
bites, it's going to bite the back of her neck.
and she'd be like, "What the fuck?"
And she'll spin around and grab its jaw or do whatever, or go at its legs and its chest, and it's should. And usually they have a couple of numbers. You'd have 2 or 3 of them, and they
Right.
swarm. And
Yeah.
but with
They
Rummy,
were bred for that.
they were bred for that. I couldn't teach her.
No.
No, and by most bears, by simply challenging them, you've already been like, oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. And then it's a fight or flight. And if they don't have something invested in it, if they aren't sick, like maybe they have
cubs,
abscessed tooth, or they're old and they're malnutrition, they're not happy in their life, they're going to fight anything, right? If they're a natural, healthy bear, whether it's black or grizzly, and something challenges them to that degree, even if it's a human that stands up and kind of says, "Hey, I won't do it now," but with all the authority and the power that is in your voice and your presence, and just say, "Whoa, bear," like, not now.
Yeah. If I was a bear
This
and I
is not
ran
a safe
into you
place,
and Rummy in the
right?
woods, I'd be like, "Nah, I'm gonna
Yep.
give these guys
Go
a
the other way,
pass."
right?
Oh, yeah.
I carry a level of confidence and power that a lot of people don't carry in the bush, right? And animals read energy more than they read
Right.
words or sounds or
and
anything.
humans are animals too.
Exactly.
You probably haven't had anyone mess with you in a while.
No, it's
You're
rare,
a very
rare if
loving.
ever.
You're one of the most loving, gentle, huggy guys I know.
The Big Al hugs it's a thing. Yeah,
And I don't think you've ever been mad at me,
precedes
and
me.
I wouldn't want you to.
No, it's very rare. People have asked me from time to time, oh, gee, was Al, you pissed off? Or I said, no. Like, there would not be a question in your mind. It would be incredibly
Clear.
yes.
Yeah.
Al's mad, right? Because otherwise, it's not a thing. I've been frustrated or aggravated or whatever, but it's not mad. Mad would be, I don't know. I've never had to go there. Adrenaline and power and physics.
Yeah, you don't have to go there when you're big.
No,
And
it
you're
would
like
be
bigger
a
than
warrior
me.
gene. Cossacks and Scottish, like Highland warrior blood coming through.
I was in the city last night, drunk, walking back from my hotel, talking to my parents on the phone. Mom's like, "Oh, you be careful in the city." I'm like, Mom, like I've been coming here for years and years and years. No one ever messed with me.
No,
It's fine.
yeah, you'll be
This is
fine.
Halifax. Yeah.
Just sit down, relax, and hey,
Yeah,
help the next person.
I'm almost 6'6". What are you,
6'4".
6'4"?
Yeah.
Like people, they're gonna find an easier target.
Oh yeah. It's
Yeah.
not really worth it. No, it's not really worth it.
No.
I had a friend that when we went to the city to do a concert once, and just said, "Gee whiz, if you pass out, man, you're gonna make me work. I'm gonna have to carry you back to the hotel, right?" And he's like, "Listen, Al, I'll tell you the God honest truth. If you go down, I'm going to set up camp here because there's no way that I'm moving you an inch anywhere you need to be other than right where you are. So
Nope.
I won't leave you. I promise. No man left behind. But I'm not going anywhere. You're going to wake up where you
Have
fell.
you ever drank enough to go down?
No.
I've
not
seen you
yet.
consume a lot. I've never seen you go down.
No.
No.
I've been seasick. I've been, like incapacitated by food poisoning and didn't want to go anywhere or move, but I've never been, drunk and passed out and woke up in some odd spot.
No.
No, there's just, I don't know. I can handle a lot of good craft beer, but
Yeah, we've had some good times, but
see, and even one of the things, I just came from a wedding in Calgary on the weekend, and it was like, I don't really feel like I need this. I'm not hungry. But it was prime rib and it was gorgeous and I said, I need to. You never had a good house built on a shoddy foundation.
No,
right?
winter's
so
coming.
If
Stock
it's
up.
$3 bar and free wine at the table and free tequila as shooters, well, I better build a good foundation and have a nice hearty meal
right.
to sop up all that alcohol.
Yeah.
So I didn't fall over.
No.
It was good.
That's good. Made it.
As consideration to all my friends. I don't want to make their life any harder than it has to be, so you're not going to have to carry me home.
I'd give it my best, bud, but I don't know.
Set up camp. That's my advice to you.
I don't think you'll ever be in that position. You'll be good to go.
You never know. There was another Big Al in Dawson City that was there before me, and he had Big Al's Gourmet Confectionery, which is basically a restaurant in the casino for 30, 40 years almost. And all he was doing was crossing the alley from the Drunken Goat to the Westminster to the pit. And he didn't have gloves on, and they had been playing poker and partying and drinking. And he did a little stumble and went to sleep in the snowbank, and he's lost all of his fingers because of it. He didn't have gloves on. He was only going like from here to the street away.
Yeah.
That's as far as he needed to go across the alley.
Dangerous.
So it happens.
Yeah.
It is dangerous.
Yeah.
Someone should have walked him home, right? Because if you spend 12, 13 hours playing poker and drinking shots, I mean,
Yeah.
you're not in the best state of mind at all.
That's
right?
what people do.
It is. There's
when
nothing
they're
else
up
to do.
there.
Yeah, it's true.
That's the type of people that are attracted to that place. I gotta come visit sometime because you told me about it for years, and I'm curious.
It's exciting. It
Yeah.
really is. I mean,
I'm not built for it long term, but I'd love to see it.
yeah. Well, that's part of.
You don't have to be nice.
You're not built for the Egyptian pyramids in the desert either, but
No.
it'd be nice.
Go
You know?
visit.
Right? I'm not. That's for sure. I guess I am built for the north. I would
Yeah.
rather be in a cooler climate than
You
a hotter
look like
climate.
it.
Yeah.
Are you like
Yeah.
part grizzly bear,
Probably.
or did you just walking around Nova Scotia minding your business, and someone says, "Hey, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
We need you."
No,
Yukon.
a weird turn of events that led me up there, and to try and think of why is,
But it
I don't know,
fits.
abstract. Yeah, but it does fit.
Yeah.
And since that I've been there have been lots of events that happen that are idiosyncratic, and you'd kind of look at it and go, "Gee whiz, did you plan that?" And I said, "No, I couldn't have planned that in a million years." But you couldn't be anywhere else on the planet in order for it to happen. So I guess I was in the right place at the right time, and appreciate why. I don't know what is there to appreciate. Just the simple fact that you're there, because I'm not rich. I haven't struck gold. I haven't done whatever. I've held lots of big gold nuggets in my hand. I've helped people do whatever. I've got gold claims. I'm moving forward. I'm incredibly rich when it comes to experiences about being on the river and having trappers cabins at my access and going on more flights in the bush with helicopters and airplanes and, than most people would ever dream of. Like literally each season you go on hundreds, right? It's mind blowing when you think of that. So the wealth of experience that you have versus the wealth of finances is you don't go and live up there to be rich unless you're already rich.
Right. Well, I'm sure there's some very wealthy people that sit in terrible offices and have miserable lives.
Right.
Or you're out in the wilderness with the beauty of nature and freedom.
They pay thousands of dollars to go on adventures that I get paid to go do.
And they work their asses off to just go have like a week of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you live it. It's your lifestyle.
If someone was to say to me 10, 12 years ago, hey, you are going to be asked to be yourself and to be comfortable and confident out in the wilderness and take care of people that are going to be with you if something goes wrong, and we're going to pay you a lot of money to do that, I would have been like, yeah, right. Where's the Joker, or who's jumping out and saying, gotcha, fake, ha, ha, ha. But that seems to be the direction that things have, gone and landed in. And there is a need for it. Like no matter what, even though say the mining section now, like there's a big catastrophe that happened here last summer, Victoria Gold, which is a huge employer, a huge heap leach, they call it, facility where there's lots of kind of small dust particles, gold in this large seam. And so they put it in like certain kind of acids and it, separates, and then then they put it in a holding pond and it settles, and then they, process it, whatever, get this ore. So environmentally, it's jeopardizing like this certain kind of acid that they use, right? So there's a big slough where the side of the hill, slid away, and now the First Nations are up in arms because it went out into the wilderness, into the creeks and things, which is terrible, right? I mean, I don't.
It wasn't intentional.
No, it wasn't intentional.
An accident.
It'd be like a super tanker ship having a fuel leak in the Pacific Ocean where. All right, that's fairly significant. Like that's hundreds of thousands of liters, but also you're talking about hundreds of trillions of liters of water in the ocean. So it's small, but it's big enough that people are taking notice and dealing with it. So in my line of work, that just means that there's going to be much more vigilance in the environmental data and the acquiring of it.
That's a value.
Great. Yeah,
it's good that that's a value. I mean, I think like the economy is important. People need to work.
It's huge. I think
we need to provide things. We need to harvest things. But
maybe like 17 to 20% of Yukon's total workforce was employed by Vic Gold.
Wow,
that's huge.
Huge,
right? Yeah. That's thousands and thousands of jobs that spread out on all different sectors.
And we tend to think of gold as like a decorative thing, but it's not all for decorative things. I mean, gold is a very, very important material.
Monetarily, the whole world's financial system is based on it. But every piece of electronic, from this microphone to those lights, to that computer, to all of it is
gold. Miracle material because it conducts electricity like super well.
Mm-hmm. And pure, like there's no resistance.
You could make that wire super thin.
Yeah, and it's also something to do with it doesn't corrode or something.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't corrode. That's one of the only commodities on the planet, if you think about it, that you're able to acquire and has absolutely zero input into it after you acquire it. So let's think about a grain farmer or a lobster fisherman or whatever. Once they acquire their product, they have to put it in grain bins or they store it in lobster cars. Like it doesn't necessarily get better with age. It's not like a wine. Wine does get better with age, but even still, when you look at cows, you have to feed them, or when you look at grain, you have to keep the humidity proper. When you look at lobsters, you want to keep them in fresh water. When you want to look at minks, you got to like deal with, the proper season for their coat to be great. Yeah. We got to harvest them now, and then we could store the furs, but they have to be in climate controlled and have to be processed properly, and all these different things that you have
shelf life.
Put into the shelf life of this currency or this product that you have. Gold, you could leave it in water, you could leave it in the sunlight, you could freeze it, you could bury it, melt it, you could leave it in muck, you could totally dump acid on it, you could do whatever you want, you could forget about it, and it doesn't change one iota.
And it's been here long before us, and it'll be here long after us.
Right?
It's funny that so many humans have been like every culture has been obsessed with gold. Every culture. What is that?
Because
Where
the
does that come
aliens?
from?
Did the aliens plant
the thing.
that?
Or it's shiny.
Drive. It's
Well, what is
shiny.
it? The Anunnaki? Is that the legend?
Something along those
The
lines.
legend
The
of
Anunnaki,
Anunnaki,
where they came down and just said, "Look, you need to harvest this on your planet
Yeah.
and stockpile it, and we'll be back whenever we get back." So you worship it, you value it.
Well, that's the thing.
There's
Was
stories about it having certain properties and all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of myths when you start looking into it. I
When
mean,
you look into the alchemy side of things, and you know how does
humans
it get
are
created?
obsessed with gold.
It is true.
but it's a cool
obsessed.
material. It's relatively soft. It doesn't corrode, and it's
Right,
shiny.
okay,
Just the
but-
fact that it's shiny like that, it looks. If you saw a nugget of gold in the ground outside, you would notice it.
But 5,000 years ago, they didn't know about electrical conductivity or
no,
building
they just
rockets.
thought it was shiny and it was cool.
Right. So
I
that's what I'm
read a
saying.
book.
It's suspicious that humans are so obsessed. It's
True.
I read a book about how the whole of human evolution can be ascribed to our liking for shiny objects.
Like
Like a
ravens.
crow.
Yeah, no, and the crows are
Crows
are in
and
the book.
bikers,
Yeah.
they like shiny shit.
It's true.
and they wear black.
Yeah.
Yeah, all black. Yeah, exactly. And they're smart.
Yeah,
But I don't know if people at home, if you look up the whole legend of Anunnaki, the vague idea of it is that aliens came down, made a new creature with part primate and part alien DNA,
The
which is
half-breeds.
us,
Yep.
and then put us to work to harvest gold, and then took this gold and went back to spread it as particles in their environment, in their atmosphere to reflect the sun or something like that.
Interesting.
It's one of these theories. And this is one of the theories of where we came from, this accelerated evolution, and why we're obsessed with gold. So it just might be true. It might be a crazy bedtime story.
It's true. Yeah.
But it's interesting.
It is very interesting. And it's true that either way you look at it, it's captivating. Right? Like, are we little ants, drone, minion miners that are just out there collecting for a bigger entity? Or is it simply just as simple as that shiny? And then once we grew technologically, we figured out, hey, this is incredibly valuable to science, to electronics, right? Because it's not valuable for anything else. Who cares if it's a ring?
Yeah.
Who cares if you made a crown out of it? Like, what does it do for you? It weighs you down. It's heavy, right? Oh, but it looks pretty.
hold your diamonds.
Holds your diamonds, right?
And then diamonds are another one that they just used to be pretty, but now we have some really impressive uses for diamonds, like making saws and stuff like
Cutting,
that. Yeah.
refracting
Cutting.
light and all that science stuff, rockets. And
So it's weird. Did we just love this stuff and then find a use later, or did something more intelligent than us put a desire in us for this, and then we're like, oh yeah, this is useful too. Weird.
that one's a coin flip.
Yeah.
I don't know. You'd have to toss
Chicken
it.
or egg.
Yeah, exactly. Which one came first? Have to go back and ask the ancients. Civilization. Did you enjoy meeting those aliens?
How much would you have
What
to
did they
smoke
tell
to
you?
do that, Al?
Right. So you have to go on one of those ayahuasca or DMT or some
Yeah.
sort of fancy trips.
Yeah.
Prepare yourself peyote wise or whatever. I don't know.
Have
I
you
don't
ever
think
done
just
that?
smoking. No, not yet. I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
But those heavy duty ones.
Mushrooms?
Oh yeah, mushrooms and LSD, sure. Marijuana, but never DMT. I know a lot of people that have done it, and they express interest and they enjoy it, but just never really. I don't know. Even though there's been a couple times where it's presented itself, I just didn't go down that road.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
Whatever, time and a place. I'd go to South America and do an ayahuasca trip or something like that. But I'm not one of these, like, I guess it's now a trendy thing where I'm a little bit unsure of myself and I need to go and find who I am and communicate with my PTSD past and figure it out. I don't know.
I saw an Instagram reel recently of like a lot of white people just puking in the woods.
Right?
Looked like to me.
That's
That's
you
what
gotta
it
go
looked
through
like
it.
to me.
You got to
And
get
there's
sick.
a lot of local people like rubbing them on the back, and they're just puking in the woods.
Yeah,
I mean, I've heard some great. I mean, even our guest last week, Craig Dorsey, says life changing ayahuasca. Does not look pleasant. It's not something you do for fun.
No, I don't think so. You're searching for a meaning. You're willing to put in some work.
Yeah.
You're looking for answers, and
Yeah.
if that's what your brain needs to feel whole, then go for it.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to do in order to achieve the next level of, travel or consciousness, then
Sort through some things.
Go for it. It's not. I don't really feel the need to become aware on that level. I think you can achieve it without going down that road.
Oh, I'm sure.
You can.
Yeah.
Right? Through life lessons and self-awareness and understanding.
Nature.
Paying attention. but like, I'm not opposed to it. You know, if you really were doing it as a ceremonial thing to, you know, move to the next level of, say, you're looking towards shamanistic, you know, traits in your life, that you really want to understand these different parallels in the universe and the time, you know, lines of our lives, the different levels that are happening in those frequencies, then sure, go for it. Because that's all it's doing, is you're just changing your frequency and tuning into another level. Yeah. Right. It's not that it doesn't exist right here, right now. Right. It's just that you're vibrating at this frequency, which is what we're all kind of normally vibrating at in our life. Right. But you want to change that frequency and heighten it. Well, now all of a sudden you're going to be in touch with different entities and different, you know, worlds.
Because I think that, like, the social scientists, evolutionary scientists say that we've evolved to only process, like our brain will only process what is to do with reproduction and survival. So like the human brain filters out a lot of shit that's going on around us.
But we have
if it doesn't have to do with surviving or breeding, we really don't care.
Yeah.
And then there's probably a lot of stuff that's happening that we're just not in attune with. And then if some of these substances that kind of alters your consciousness, maybe it opens up to something that is actually there, always been there. Your brain was just filtering it out.
It's true.
It's an interesting theory.
Because we don't, even though you don't have to go through the actual trip and the process to understand these things, it's written down in books that it's able to be taught to classes. You know, you can understand it without having to go through it. But most people don't seek out that knowledge. They don't. We aren't given the books in school that says, hey, you know, if you want to get in tune with frequencies and you know, consciousness levels, this is how you do it at any age.
And people have been doing it for thousands and thousands, all through human history.
All through human history.
Every culture has some kind of psychedelic in them. Yeah.
And the ability to teach how you can use that for your benefit, how you can manifest things and then, you know, work towards it, and how you can tune in. Like there was a book I listened to earlier, audiobook or whatever, and it's like, if you really want to get deeply into it, and I'm not that deep into it, but also I'm pretty far into it without even realizing, because you just go through experiences in your life and all of a sudden you're at a certain level just because you've gone through and grabbed hold and acknowledged and understood and adapted and accepted what these mean. It changes into another level that says, well, you can control anything, right? Your energy can be so powerful that when somebody else comes into the room, you can direct how you want that conversation to go. You can manipulate that energy in the direction that says, well, I actually do want a business deal with you. I've been manifesting it. I've been thinking about this. And now that you've come across my path, I can overpower this situation by sheer will, by sheer magnitude on the inside without anybody ever knowing, right? But what it says in order to get to that level is there's a lot of meditation. There's a lot of like slowing yourself down to a lower frequency so that you can be in tune with the power, the torque.
And be self-aware.
Be self-aware, and then start reading the environment, start reading the people. You understand the archetype of their personality. Yeah. You understand what makes them tick or what makes their spark, you know, how they're going to go. Yeah. And then you start guiding through simple conversation or simple omission of, you know, words or anything, just, you know, eye contact or certain thoughts and projections that you throw out there. You can totally control the immediate energy, the immediate environment that is around your orb, right? You here right now. So if you could do that on a conscious level, well, my goodness, what's stopping you from doing anything? Like you'd be a superhuman, you know, you'd be a creature you'd be a shaman or a guru or someone of that level.
It's kind of funny, isn't it? Because if you think about all of our storytelling, like movies, books, cartoons, all the shit we grew up on, the hero is always the guy or gal that stays calm and cool and collected. They're at peace. In the face of danger, they come up with a clever idea and they defeat the bad guys.
They act on it.
They act on it. And, no. It's never the person that's losing their mind and freaking out. And that's always the bad guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Always the bad guy.
But that's just kind of realistic, though. There's there's realism to that, because if you can stay calm and collected,
you have better understanding of the situation and then influence on the situation. But how many of us are really taught to value that self-control?
We're not taught at all.
Peace.
Yeah. unless you have a very special parent that's kind of aware of those levels and puts the effort into that. As far as our general educational system and stuff, no, you're not taught anything.
You have a very unique mom, and you wouldn't be who you are without your mom.
No, that's true.
Tell us about your mom.
Well, mom's at this level in her life, I would consider her to be a white witch, right? Like she has got such strong energy, and she's in tune with good. She's in tune with wholesome, good energy. And we've all had challenges. Bad things happen to good people. That's just the way it is. You have challenges that are supposed to teach you lessons that we know nothing about. We just have to accept that that's where it is, and this is what we're moving forward with, because you either decide to go with the light or with the dark. That's the way it is, and for Mom, without even her realizing at a young age, she just went, well, that's not me, right? I'm not going down that road. Good, bad, indifferent. It's led her to where she is now. And to have that incredibly calm energy, that, confidence in self, and to project that warm love of acceptance and understanding, people can't help but just feel it, and it brings them to that level. Right? Whether they're below it, it brings them up to Mom's energy level. Whether they're incredibly high and think a lot, it brings them down to Mom's energy level, where there's just this understanding that says we're all human, and I'm on love. I'm not on ego. I'm not on sorrow. I'm on love. And this is, if you want to engage, I'll be happy to. Right. So whether it's now her profession that she's gone into is, she calls herself a celebrant. So there's a lot of weddings that she does. She's a justice of the peace, and there's a lot of funerals, and not only just the service at the funeral, but helping the person who is inevitably going to pass on kind of understand what that next transition is going to be like, and how they can help their family, and how they can understand and help themselves to go through that. It's a calming and peaceful and quite useful, because a lot of people are scared to death of death.
Oh yeah,
scared to death of death. Isn't that ironic?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that was a big part of my job as a pastor for 10 years. I sat with a lot of people who were passing on,
and they don't necessarily want to accept it.
No,
they don't. They don't want to understand that it's part of this journey. It's a wonderful journey. You've been brought here to understand that the experience is about experiencing all the emotions that we can experience: love, hate, anger, envy, jealousy, sorrow, laughter, whatever. That's basically what this trip is. That our spiritual orb enhanced, inhabited, and at the moment of birth, this little meat tractor, this little physical flesh of bones, that's all it's about, is to experience these emotions. And part of the emotions is the letting go at the end, when your meat tractor expires and off you go to the next chapter. So it's not necessarily something to be afraid of. It's not something to be scared of.
it is very unnatural. It feels unnatural and terrifying. It is a scary thing. I've been scared to die since I remember being 12, and I thought, everybody dies. And then, holy shit, I'm one of everybody. I'm going to die? I remember the moment that clicked in my brain. I lost my little mind.
Yeah.
It was upsetting.
You haven't made it there yet, but maybe there'll be a moment in your brain that's going to click and say, you know what? I'm okay with this. I've had enough.
Well, that's the hope.
This is
that's what I hope.
We're okay with it. I'm waiting around now.
There.
There are probably lots of people in some old folks' homes that are like, "Get me the hell out of here!
Yeah.
I'm over it." Right?
That's what that's the dream.
And would you rather be sitting there waiting, or would you have said, well, I probably shouldn't, but I'm in my late 70s or whatever. I buy a motorcycle and I put all the gear on it, and I'm driving up to the Yukon to go on the Dempster Highway, and lost control and drove over whatever cliff, or whatever, got hit by a semi, or any number of things. Oh, screw it, I'm going out fishing. Well, what if something happens? You're not as strong as you used to be. Good enough.
That's how I want to go.
Yeah, then you won't have to pay for a casket, right? It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The goal for me is, I hope that when the time comes, I'm not upset about it.
Well, that's it. You're at peace. You can be comfortable with that.
Marcus
transition.
Aurelius, the Stoic, he said he had a terrible, so much tragedy, like lost spouses and children, and he was the emperor, and things were bad, and he went through all these challenges, and they all made him stronger and stronger. And the goal, he said, he handled all these things, but he said, fear of death was the biggest thing for him, and that he hoped that his character would be strong enough that he could meet his death with dignity. You don't want to go kicking and screaming and crying like a bitch.
No. And you don't want to have all these regrets.
You want to meet it, I'll say like a man, no disrespect to women, but
Right.
I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
You know, there's some very strong women.
There are.
Yeah. But
there
to
are.
meet it with dignity and strength and not be afraid.
But you never know how you're going to go out, though, right?
You don't.
This is the thing, because it's very different. You go out in a fight, in a war, or if you go in a hospital bed
Yeah.
or something, it's vastly different.
I think that if your self-awareness is at the level where I'd say on a daily basis, but doesn't maybe on a weekly basis or whatever, but the people that you truly love and accept in your family, in your loved circle, know how you feel about them. If it's sprung upon you, you can go, well, no regrets.
Right.
You know, they know that I love them. Not, gee whiz, I wish I had have, got that last minute to have the conversation with my aunt and told them whatever. Whereas every single phone call ends with, I love you, or, hey, I haven't talked to you in 10 years. You're a longtime friend of mine. We've picked up right where we left off. And if I don't see you again for the next 10 years, I love you dearly. And my heart's always going to be with you. I appreciate who you are. And we'll see each other next time. Click. There's no regrets. There's no animosities. There's no unsaid feelings. There's
Peace.
And if you can leave everyone in your life each time that you're going to separate, whether it's for a day or for 10 years, well, now all of a sudden when you're presented with that moment of, whoops, I'm over, at least there's not this struggle or this, in my mind, that's what I think, is that you've had some closure, that everybody knows your feelings about them. You haven't left unsaid.
I agree.
I mean, hey, there's always going to be undone business, and nobody likes to make a will.
Extent,
and
but there's going to be some things that are just, I'm going to say you can't live with, but maybe you can't die with. There's going to be some things that are just so overwhelming. So why hesitate?
Why hesitate? Just do it now. And on my understanding level, I don't have a lot in this life, especially physically or monetarily. So it's not much that I would even bother leaving to anybody. I mean, if they wanted it and they know I'm dead, then they could come and take it, right? But on a conscious level with my friends and my family, well, they all know exactly where I stand with them, right? 100%. I've told them, it's eye contact. It's emotional.
You're not shy about
connection.
your feelings.
No. Why would you? I mean, I don't know if I learned it at a young age because of what I went through or not, but my father had multiple sclerosis and got it the year I was born in 1980. Didn't really know what was going on. Wasn't diagnosed until 1982. By then they gave him until 86. That hey, you'll probably be knocked out by then. But he had 2 small children, and Dad was stubborn as a mule and fought to hold on, which he did. So basically, 28 years later, he died of natural complications brought on through the deterioration of his body, which was MS. So at that stage, I'm a 28-year-old man, and I've watched the total physical digression of my father. And understood that says, well, I miss my friend dearly, but I'm so thankful that my father's not here suffering anymore. I watched what he went through, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And that understanding that says, hey, even if I didn't say, oh, I love you today or whatever, like the I love yous that have happened through our whole lives, the understanding that says, hey, it's okay. I know what you've been through. You can leave. You can let go now. You've held on long enough. Is just another level of awareness that maybe a lot of people don't have a chance to go through and are kind of not necessarily ignorant of, but hey, they just didn't have a chance. It's avoidance. You don't know until you go through it. And then you're too caught up in, well, I never got to say goodbye. They died in a car accident. I was supposed to see them this afternoon. I'm in grief. I'm at loss. I'm at, that's not the way I saw it. That's not the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, you were preparing for your whole life.
For a very long time.
Your whole life.
Right? My whole life. Mm-hmm. And so to understand that that's kind of the way that anything's going to happen, even with my mom when she gets older or our parents, it's inevitable. I'd say now, oh, you mentioned, hey, I'm coming home more often. Well, the little slogan I use is the Yukon's not going anywhere, right? My mom's not going to hang around forever. And when they've reached that certain age demographic, it just becomes a little more realistic. Whether she's got another 10 months or 10 years, who knows? Anything could happen, right? But why spend your time up in some place incredibly far away, chasing something that is a lifestyle, but I mean, is going to be there when there's no, she's not going up there to live in a cold winter or to start a new life and make new friends and have to, build an existence, again. No. She's where she needs to be, and that's a beautiful thing. So I have to adapt to that. And, if it comes as a snap and a flash, that almost makes it a little more easy to transition through, right? When it's not, and it's long and it's drawn out, and you're there and you're waiting and you're taking care and you're saying, well, am I putting my life on hold, right? Well, that's almost a very selfish way of looking at things. Say, is this my life right now? Yes, it is. Am I happy and confident and comfortable that it's going this way? Why should I even consider that I have another choice, right? Because then you just get, the grass is greener over there, right? If you don't, and you accept that death is just part of life, is that transition, and you're never really gone, right? You're with me. We could get deep into other crazy stories and other universes where things happen and our loved ones that are not in this realm at this frequency anymore, but are still, their energy exists, their orb exists, and they love you and care for you in a special reason for a certain period of time, that they're going to watch over you because you haven't left this realm yet, this frequency. Then that's when like angels are real, that we do have them, that they are able to communicate with you, they are able to protect you or save certain things from happening on different wavelengths, different energies that maybe aren't supposed to happen right now. And if they didn't step in, then it would have happened, and that's not for the greater good. You can see a greater good, and that's what the angels do. They're following us. Just because they're not on this physical realm and this physical frequency doesn't mean they don't still love us and they aren't still part of our world.
Because we don't know.
No, we don't know.
We don't know shit.
Right? We're just mind-numbingly driving straight ahead going, gee whiz, I can't wait to get that coffee in me or whatever, right? Go home and go to sleep or whatever.
And there's so much we don't understand.
Right? About death, about life, about our friends. I think that if you just boil it down to, I know nothing except who I am in this moment, because I have helped create that entity, that person in this moment. Well, therefore you have the confidence in whatever the actions are going to be, whatever need to be taken, whether someone's attacking you with negative energy or whether someone's praising you up and you don't want to be praised up, or whether you're just sitting there quietly with a person that you've never met before on a bus. You can still share that moment, and appreciate the beautiful sunset or the lovely conversation or whatever it is, and say, well, I've done no harm. I understand how my actions affect you. I can control how your actions affect me. What's the problem? What's the problem? What am I scared of? What am I not ready for? I don't know. It's only the moment, the present. It's a gift. We're in it. Nothing else matters. Really, it doesn't. Your imagination is the future. Your memories are the past. Neither of those things exist.
Yeah.
That's just bullshit in your head. Because your memory about what happened and my memory about what happened
People
are similar.
Never agree,
but we're off. There's difference.
That's what we see disputes with, like, family members and stuff like that, and they'll argue for years. And well, this is what you said, and this, you'll never get to the bottom of what happened. You never will, because both of you had different emotions and different feelings and different perspectives.
And you're both kind of right.
And you're both kind of right, and you're both kind of wrong.
Yeah.
So do you love each other? Yeah. Smarten the fuck up and move on.
Yeah, hug it out.
Yeah, there's always three sides to every story. You're always mine and the truth.
It is true.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Your side, my side, and the truth. Yeah. And who cares which one?
Yeah.
Matt, like, none of it really.
It always annoys me when people would rather be right than kind. That annoys me.
Annoys is a polite way of putting it.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit more than annoying. It's almost like, it almost makes you angry, to think like, what, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
You win, you feel better. Ultimately, you're going to feel like a turd no matter what, because you didn't make friends out of the deal. You weren't kind of the deal. It's not like this is a positive experience for the people that are involved. Oh, you're the bigger man. You felt good. Great, good.
It's like when you go fishing, and your fishing line gets so fucking tangled, and you try to untangle, and you try to untangle. At some point, you just got to cut it and start again.
Walk away.
And move on.
Absorb it. Cost me some money. I don't care.
And if someone can love you enough to let that go and move forward, then that's a good relationship. That's a keeper.
Doesn't matter if it's a little small or a little. That's a keeper.
That's
right?
a keeper.
Yeah, you don't need to lie.
No.
Not a fishing tall tail, right? You caught that one. It's a good one. She accepts you.
Have some peace and move on.
Move on, right? It's But they don't teach that stuff in school, and most of the time we're so caught up in our day-to-day life of I need to pay the bills and get ahead and not worry about what you don't think about that stuff. You don't learn about it until certain key moments in life.
I think we're so revved up with stimulus now. Like it's like all this going on. There's work, there's challenges in the economy, and there's phones, and there's TVs, and there's politics, and all this shit that our brains are just revving so high. Our anxiety is so high.
When I went to the Yukon that I truly enjoyed in my cabin, there's a radio there. So like CBC Radio 2, but even that doesn't really, it's not like super, it's classical and artsy-fartsy and whatever. Every half hour it has the news, but.
Well, I bet you appreciate it when you can get it.
Yeah, and so then I don't have a TV, I don't really have the internet. Now I have this smartphone, but there was about 4 or 5 years where I didn't have a phone even. I'd just go down to the neighbors and have a cup of tea and call mom up like it was an old landline and just, it was just the way things happen. And it was actually quite peaceful. I couldn't care less about what was going on in the world. It didn't make a difference to me, right? The COVID going on, well, whatever. I'm 78 miles out on a creek cutting firewood. I couldn't care less the world shut down. You know, it didn't make any difference to me, right? I was cutting firewood. I was enjoying the wall tent.
Stock market crash? Who gives a fuck?
Who cares, right? I went to town and they had gas. I had enough gas to fill up the jerry cans and the truck, and here we go, right? So
something beautiful and simple about that.
Exactly. I did enjoy it. But
I don't think our brains are built to handle so much information.
No, it's too much.
We get too much stimulation.
Yeah.
Like on the phone all the time. It's all the...
There's something like 300,000 pieces of information a day that the human is exposed to.
That sounds like too much.
think about every ad, every building name that's on this street, every stop sign that we pass to get here, every speed limit, every rumble strip, every there goes SO.
I think we should get rid of all the advertising.
Street signs? Get rid of all the street signs?
No, not the street signs. Just all the advertising. Anything to do with advertising, anything.
Right. But
On
then
YouTube,
you still see
everything.
it. I just saw a brand new Chevy truck drive by. That's that's a piece of information, whether I wanted to use it or not. Like when I went to radio and television broadcasting school in college, I wrote my major thesis statement on radio is the ideal medium for advertising because you don't have to want to pay attention to absorb the information, right? With print, newspaper, magazine, whatever, you have to physically engage and intellectually walk over there and make the choice to pick up that magazine and start thumbing through it and looking and reading and getting it that way. If you don't turn the page, you don't know what's coming up next. You'll never see that ad. So be it, right? With a television, you have to turn it on, you have to push the thing, you have to pretty much sit there and watch the TV because it doesn't really hold the same effect if you're in the other room doing the dishes and the TV's on. So you heard a car rev. You don't know whether that's the brand new Ford F-150 Platinum Edition. Yeah. But you did if you sat there and you heard the car rev and you saw the F-150 Platinum Edition race across the screen, right? But that's engaging on twofold. So radio, she can be in the other room. Whomever can be in the other room doing dishes, working on a project in the shop, a motor or whatever, and not paying attention, not wanting the information. You couldn't care less, right? And you just listened to the radio yesterday evening. Now you're driving home from work the next day, right? And all of a sudden you see the McDonald's sign, and in your head you hear "bop bop bop, I'm loving it," and you hear your wife that said, "Oh man, I heard they have new Chip It, Blizzard Sundays there. I'd love to have one of those. It'd be great." And go, gee whiz, if I want to get in her good books tonight, I should grab one of those.
It's all about getting in the books.
You wouldn't have remembered that ad. You wouldn't have whatever until you saw that Golden Arches and you heard the "bop bop bop, I'm loving it," and your subconscious mind brought up the information that you heard yesterday, where hey, the new Chip It Sunday's on sale, for $1.99 or whatever. Get it for a limited time. There you go.
That's
foolishly.
That's why I put them bottles there.
Yeah, exactly, right? So you think that you might need a beer after you watch this episode and call for Uber
but
Eats.
the thing is, you watch the podcast, you go to the liquor store, you see the bottle,
you pick it up.
You connect
I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
Our brain has
That's why I turned the
Sponsored by
branding.
Roofhound.
Yeah,
Sponsored by Roofhound.
Yeah,
Who doesn't like being a drunk dog every once in a while?
exactly.
But with radio and with podcasting, you don't need to look at our ugly mugs
Right.
on the video to see, you don't need to see us to understand and listen to what we're talking about and get the picture, right? So audio is able to subconsciously put that image in our head. They used to say good audio is great visual, right? So if I'm talking about a salty seaman out on the high seas, hauling his gear, right? No, I know.
I didn't know.
Right?
I didn't know
You
where you're
what-
going
you
with
know
that one.
what you were going to start visualizing just yet. And the wind's blowing and the seagulls are squawking in the background and you hear a little bit of water sloshing around, whatever. I didn't tell you what color the boat is. I didn't tell you whether he's wearing a sou'wester or not. But in your mind, you had an image of a fisherman, a salty seaman, out there on the ocean, in the swells, on his boat. And your boat and your fisherman are incredibly different than my boat and my fisherman, but no
both
less. They're both real.
Yeah.
They serve the purpose. And so good audio is great visual because the mind's eye is that theater that nobody can take it away from. Nobody can say doesn't exist. You did that wrong.
It's amazing how the media has changed so much because we started out with radio, like our grandparents had radio and no TV.
And that was huge.
And then there's television. When I think of like the 80s and the 90s, I think of people coming home from work, sitting on the couch, being mesmerized by a TV. It's selling you shit, and it's the same format of all these shows, all these sitcoms, just recycling the same old jokes.
Oh, yeah.
And I hated that. And I wanted to do things, but you're trapped.
Yeah.
Because that's just what people do.
That's what you did. You get
And then
caught.
now, like I haven't had cable or television in years. But I love podcasts.
Right.
Because I'm an active guy. I want to mow the lawn or I want to work in the brewery or drive wherever, and I can have my podcast on. That's a great thing about Spotify. If you're watching this on Spotify, you can actually watch the video of us, watch our ugly faces.
Not sponsored by Spotify, by the way.
No. Or you can just close the screen, put it in your pocket. The audio doesn't stop. And then you can just keep on listening while you're active and doing things, doing the dishes.
It's engaging.
Or whatever. Yeah.
If you want to bring it up and say, oh, yeah, look, I can pause or I can look at that. And, you mentioned the color of his shirt or something, go back and get it, but you don't have to.
You don't have to, exactly, and that's what I'll do. Look, with YouTube, it's a little different. You turn it off, everything goes away.
Yeah,
But with
unless you
Spotify,
upgrade.
it's great because you can, like if I'm watching a podcast and I want to see what this person looks like or whatever, or maybe they're showing something.
That's not the same on Android, by the way.
Huh? Not the same on Android? Yeah, well, I don't associate with those Android people.
Oh, yeah.
Get with the times, Benjamin.
Yeah,
The
but my
battle.
daughter's already put stickers on this one, so
See,
She can put stickers on the new one.
can't.
she
say
wouldn't
that.
like it. It's got apples
You're
on
so
it now.
stubborn you wouldn't do it anyway. I know. I'm saving my breath.
My wife has an iPhone. I still refuse to do it.
Do you still love her?
A little
He hesitated, Amber. He hesitated.
Yeah, I had to get one of those because when I got back into the real world, traveling across the country to come see my mom after COVID, well, I couldn't get insurance. I couldn't pay bills. I couldn't move money. I couldn't do
Can't
anything.
even vote now without a phone.
Yeah, exactly.
I tried to
Right?
vote for the municipal election. You had to do it over your phone or your computer.
It's quite something. So I had to
Well,
buy
I
that
have
stupid
problems.
phone.
Yeah, but that anyway.
Yeah, I had problems with it too. I hate it. Now it's full and update and what they want to charge money. I had a BlackBerry that worked fine for 10 years, right? And then they send me a message that says it's no longer supported on the grid.
Yeah.
Which flabbergasted. Why?
What an idiot, though. The CEO of BlackBerry, there's videos out there. He was saying nobody wants music or photos on their phone. Because BlackBerry was the leaders. Like, they were the smartphone. That was all there was.
It was brilliant.
Way before Apple.
Loved it.
And that idiot couldn't understand that people wanted like fun and entertainment. He just said business. We're a business phone. Then Apple comes out with a phone that's fun, and then they're like, now BlackBerry's fucked
Obsolete.
because it was a Canadian company, right? They were huge.
Yeah, they were. I loved it. They had the proper buttons for my big cucumber fingers, and I had the Q10, so it had the touch screen where you could zoom, you could do all the things, but it wasn't so huge. Now it's like I walk around with a Cineplex Odeon in my pocket. It's crazy.
But humans love foolishness. Never underestimate humans' addiction to foolishness.
TikTok.
I was gonna say that's why TikTok uses.
We love foolishness.
It's nuts. I don't understand it. I don't want to understand it because I catch myself. I get caught. We all get caught.
Oh, the scroll, yeah.
Right?
Well, doom scroll.
Yeah. The thumb exercise is just like
Yeah.
an hour and a half went by and it was nothing but 30-second clips.
I'm trying to put my phone away more. It's hard when you have a couple businesses and staff
Well,
trying
see,
to get in touch with you and kids. and
I've
stuff.
have
started
to be in
not
touch.
charging my phone at night, and I charge it during the day because that gives me a couple of hours of phone-free existence during the day.
Yeah, I just get
Because
a
you
long
doom
cord.
scroll all night and burn the battery up.
I wish no, but yeah, it's not as dumb as it sounds.
No. Sundays. I'm trying to at least have one day a week where I'm just not on there so much.
It's harder when you're a business owner.
It is.
True.
Because you've got people need to contact you with stuff and
Everything.
stupid questions or every 5 minutes. And
Yep.
yeah.
But your nervous system gets trapped in that. Your nervous system gets trapped in like, ooh, a buzz.
Dopamine.
Because when I was on MasterChef, they took our phones because they didn't want like updates of the show getting out. So they take your phone, they put it in a box. I had one phone call home a week and had a chaperone on the phone call, like a producer was listening. But it was a little weird at first, but it was great.
People
It's
have
just
lived
one less thing to
thousands
worry
of
about.
years without phones.
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Freedom.
It felt like the 90s again.
Oh, it's
I
good.
remember like where there's like 40 people from all across the country. You're your new friends. You're trapped in a hotel room. You can't talk to anyone else. So you got to make friends.
Yep.
And it felt like the 90s. It's like, what room are they in? You got to dial up the room, or you got to go look for them in the lobby. Like, where do they park their bicycle? It feels like the 90s again.
Leave a note. Leave a
When
note
was
on
the
the
last
car.
time you left your house without your phone completely?
I'd panic. I'd go back.
Yeah, no, but I had that realization the other day. I was just going to the post office, just like 200 yards from my house.
Yeah.
And I turned back and I was like, what am I doing?
I know, because it feels vulnerable feeling. I'm like, what do I need to call 911?
Yeah, it's an emergency. It's a terrible emergency, like within like line of sight of my house. What would happen?
What if you wanted to take a picture? You know, like, oh, it was.
It could be a squirrel.
Yeah.
But here
squirrel.
you are
Click.
up in the wilderness that can kill you. And there's like, because you're like the last line of defense, really. Like if you
these
had to
people,
call
yeah.
we think it's a long time to get an ambulance here. If you had to call like medical emergency, like how long would that take when you're out in the bush?
Well, it would be immediate. I would administer it. You know,
You're the guy.
Yeah, I'm the guy. Right? Yeah,
You're the
you've
guy.
got your first aid kit. You understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But you're talking like a minimum, for the most part, wherever we were, it would be a 20-minute minimum for the chopper to get fired up. You know, to make that 5-minute flight, 4-minute flight. But still, he's got to run out there. He's got to fire it up. He's got to warm cycle the engines. He's got to It's going to take time, no matter where you are. So like you're looking at a minimum, best case scenario, 20 minutes till the chopper lands here. And then it's, well, are we assessing the situation as far as like, how serious is this? Do we call in a medevac flight, or do we, you're in the chopper, you're in the man basket, we're flying to Pelly, you know, and if it's that bad, we're flying straight to Whitehorse.
The man basket, that's like on flying.
Well,
under.
no, it's outside, but it's mounted on one of the skids
Okay.
on the side of it. They're not, you're not dangled on a long line. That would be a bit much.
Still doesn't sound fun.
Doesn't sound
No, it'd be cold and windy. You'd be strapped in and off you go. Get some blankets wrapped around you. And
crazy.
there you go. Yeah, you're outside.
Amazing.
So no, you'd want the first line of defense to be me, and then the second line, like when that chopper comes out to get you, the camp has a certified, validated, like level whatever nurse on site with all the oxygen bottles and training and scat kits, and she's the one. I'm bush medic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll make sure that you got a tourniquet and you're not bleeding out.
You look like a bush medic.
Yeah, exactly. Mouth to mouth, baby. Are you ready? You might get a little beard. You will get a little mustache.
Get some beard hairs
Yeah,
in there.
exactly. I don't know. Take it. It's good for the immune system, right? We're golden here.
Yeah.
But no, once the helicopter comes out with the medic from site, then you'd be in much better hands.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to let you bleed out, or
Yeah.
you won't be stuck in an area that the chopper can't get to.
Right.
Right? Not with me around there. And they would laugh sometimes, and I'd just say, look, we were looking for pikas, this little fuzzy animal way up top on these huge boulder fields, and walking around, and I'm a giant man carrying a big 50-pound. They would all carry light day packs, but I refused to go lighter than what I needed. Like there's extra food kits, an axe, a machete, extra socks, extra whatever, the guide tarp, like blah, blah. If things get set up or you go in the water, my long johns and socks and sweater are going to go to you. Like we'll make some mountain houses, we'll do whatever. So my pack is always going to be heavier than theirs was.
Because you're looking after everybody.
Period.
Yeah.
And redundant things like 3 or 4 ways to start a fire.
Yeah.
Not just, I know how to use a bow drill, or I have a lighter. Yeah, but what if you go in the waterproof matches, little fire? I'd make these things out of old egg cartons, and you just put sawdust with a little bit of diesel fuel in it and like some lint from the dryer, and fill them up with wax, paraffin wax.
Yeah.
You could cut it that in a quarter, and that 1 quarter would burn for 20-25 minutes nonstop.
So I suppose you're making use of a lot of things.
Oh yeah, sure. But stuff that just makes sense, or that would be garbage, and you're like, no, I can
burn it.
Yeah, I can burn that shit, or I can
Save
use
a life.
that. Yeah, exactly. I don't need to carry 10 meters of haywire. I've got a bunch of little pieces, a bunch of big pieces, and a bunch of whatever. And, you never know when it comes.
It's exciting, huh?
It is. It's
You love
always
it?
on the go. I do love it. Oh,
Yeah.
dearly. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, get paid for 2 weeks to go out and catch fish, with fish scientists, right?
Yeah.
And when I started doing that, Rummy started figuring out what was going on. She would actually be on the creek bank and be looking. And if you saw her staring at a little back eddy or a jetty or whatever, you go cast just up in front of that, and that would drift back and whap, you get a fish every time.
Awesome.
So she started figuring out we were catching fish. So then she'd be looking at them. She'd see them, right? I mean, with the Polaroid glasses and all that stuff, you can make it work too. But a dog is just watch what your dog's looking at. You'll do fine. Right?
Yeah. Oh, I suppose that's like a really important part of the whole human dog relationship. Is amazing.
She's so smart. Like when we first caught the fish, Haley had caught one on a fly rod and brought it in, and it was kind of like a sandbar, and then it dropped down real deep in this far side of the channel. And Ed went in with a dip net and caught the fish in the dip net. But then you're just going to kind of hold it there in the current and get your scales and get your little tags and get all your stuff, your science stuff set up there, and leave the fish like in the creek until you're ready to, minimal impact type thing, right? But in that fish, Ed kind of had it there, and Rummy was all excited about the thing, and she jumped in, and she was on the sandbank or whatnot, and it was like a dark green netting on the dip net. And so when the fish kind of went like that, it looked like it was going to get away. And Rummy jumped right in after it and caught it in her mouth. And of course, everyone's kind of like, hey, put that down. Like, no, Rummy. Well, when they took that fish out, she hadn't pierced it. She hadn't chewed it. She wasn't trying to kill the bloody thing. She just didn't want it to get away. She thought that we had caught it, and then
on duty.
It was going to get away. So she swam and
Smart.
got it in her mouth, right? And no, she started getting right in there, catching fish all by herself, and flopping them on the shore and everything. It was funny. It's a smart dog, paying attention.
She can tell you're talking about.
Oh, I know. She knows. She's staring at me on the couch. Yeah. Give me a wink. She gave me a wink. Oh no, she knows how to live the good life. Oh goodness, yeah. But
Been on more flights than me.
right? Oh my goodness, yes. That dog right there is probably hundreds and hundreds of helicopter flights over the years, and fixed wing airplane, and ride around on boats and truck ride. One summer we put 14,000 kilometers on an F550 long box crew cab with a 29-foot gooseneck trailer that we were taking to camp. It was 117 kilometers from the highway into Thunderdome, they called it. And I calculated, just some basic whatever, in 84 trips that I did in just under 4 months, it calculated to be a little over 1 million pounds of goods that I moved in and out, everything to build that camp, all the tents, the cook stoves, the fuel, the food, the garbage, the samples, everything. And she ran every mile with me. She had a blast, and hanging her head out the window, and it was pretty wild, climbing up steep mountains on the top of huge ridge lines and peaks, and down in the valleys, and mud storms and tire chains, and it was just it was insane.
It's cool that you are working, like I said, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but it's so cool that you're working on with like a commodity, like the industry, making wealth, and doing it on an environmentally friendly way,
Right.
with lowest impact possible. And I think we need that. Like the world is a competitive place. The economy needs to run. Like people think that wealth just comes from somewhere, but it has to be you got to go get it.
Before it's yours, it's mined.
Yeah.
That's the slogan they have up there, right?
The trees and the ground, all this wealth has to come from somewhere for us all to eat and drive and live in warm houses, like the oil, the gold. It'd be great if we could have sustainable batteries, but even that has to come out of the earth. Like someone would have to do the same kind of thing you're doing. But in a lot of parts of the world, they don't have the environmental protections.
No, God.
They don't give a shit about what kind of little shrew is there when they go in for
or about contaminating groundwater
no,
or anything, right?
No, they don't.
95% of the groundwater in China is now contaminated.
I'm sure.
I found that out the other day.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to get a fresh drink?
Yeah.
They're going to start importing their water from Russia.
There was this young water scientist that was with us. Actually, no, we were doing fish survey at the time, and I got her good a couple nice little jokes or whatever. But at this one stage, there was this beautiful pool that we were fishing, and there was a lovely stream that came from up on the hill, a nice artesian well that came down and poured into it. And that being said, 4 or 5 kilometers further up the creek is the actual deposit of copper and gold, and there are huge amounts of heavy metals coming out of the ground there, and the water looks neon orange, and it's weird. There's this bacteria that grows in there, and it's heavily metal, right? You wouldn't want to drink it, not in a million years. But 5 miles downstream, I mean, whatever, it's been overtaken, it's been filtered, it looks quite natural. Now it's still high levels, don't get me wrong, but it's not terrible. If you had to drink something, you know, you're not living there for 20 years, brushing your teeth and washing your dishes and drinking it and cooking with it every day. It's not going to kill you. Either way, there was this beautiful artesian stream that came down and poured into that. And it was a hot day, whatever. I had like a little Ziploc baggie and just turned it inside out, had some peanuts or something, turned it inside out, and, you know, let that stream pour into this bag and took a drink. And it was just the most delicious water you've ever tried in your life, right? And I said to her, here, Shreya, like, have a drink. She's like, I'm not drinking. That's wild water.
Wild water.
Like, yeah, it's wild water. Of course it is. It's delicious. She's like, no, there is rotten leaves and beaver poop and all kinds of gross things in there. I'm like, do you see what comes out of the mountain there, Shreya? It's been filtered by sand and volcanic dirt and, you know, leaves and roots and sand and everything, and comes out here ice cold and perfectly fresh and absolutely delicious. Like, and you're going to drink that bottle of water that tastes like a sterile.
It's probably got more chemicals
Exactly.
and poisons and stuff in it.
Sterile plastic
Microplastics.
jar.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's probably no cleaner, and it's
No.
probably been flown halfway across the fucking world. As
right?
well.
Yeah.
How much of the carbon footprint
Yeah.
does that have? Whereas this was absolutely delicious. She wouldn't drink the wild water.
Wild water.
Yeah,
It's funny.
No, she thought I was crazy. I'm not drinking that wild water.
Yeah.
I'll get sick.
Yeah.
I was like,
But it is kind of funny that we're obsessed with clean things, but we want water, and the water comes out of the ground
Yeah.
filtered by dirt.
dirt.
That is a little strange when you think about it.
Even when they have the fancy water filters in the buildings,
Oh yeah,
it's
still
carbon.
sand
It's
and
dirt.
stuff.
It's getting
Yeah.
filtered through sand and
sand.
dirt.
This is
Oh,
where we know we're
carbon.
in a simulation. How do you clean something with dirt?
With dirt. It's not going to kill you,
No. Well, I think we forget how wild and natural we are.
right?
We
Well,
forget
should be.
and should be.
Yeah. It's
I
quite
think we
something.
forget that a little bit. We're a little bit too comfortable, a little bit too refined, maybe sometimes.
Yeah, and that was a person who had graduated with master's degree, but had volunteered for the Surrey Friends of Fish, you know, in the park and whatever, and done her thing, and was carrying like a 3-pound Stanley thermos with cold water in it, you know, and her little book pack that she had from like school, like, you know, just
Probably
and-
fluoride in the
oh,
water
Oh my God!
from the last town.
Right? It was quite something, you know. And she was, I got her good. There was another fellow that was there with us, Ed, and Ed had been doing this for 40 some odd years. And we were doing a solidity test where, like 25 meters upstream, they'd put a certain amount of salt into the water, right? And then you'd measure the time as to how long it took to get down to this other mark, right? So you could see the turbidity and the flow rate and all that kind of stuff as to how much volume was being moved through a certain space in a certain period of time. And we were doing that. And so it happened to be in an old placer mining setup. So all of it had been turned around. It wasn't like this natural foliage. You know, there was some rocks and dirt and all that kind of stuff. The creek was going down. And there was an old junked up piece of plywood, right, that had kind of buried underneath the, you know, the dirt, and was all bright red because it was a lot of iron oxidized ore that was in there, part of one of the good indicators for gold. And anyways, I said to Shreya, gee whiz, you see that? You see, holy smokes, you never see those. Look at that, Shreya. She's like, look at what? I said, look at that, man. That's a Yukon wood rock. Right? And she's like, Yukon wood rock? There's no such thing. I'm like, what do you mean there's no such thing? You're looking at it right there. It kind of looks like wood, babe, but it's a big flat rock like that. You rarely find them that size. That's actually a good one. She's like, no, it's not. It's that stuff that you put on, you know, in houses. That's like dry rock. I'm like, that's not dry rock. That's wood rock, Shreya. It's wood rock. It's a Yukon wood rock. It's not dry rock. You're talking about gyp rock, which is drywall that they put up in houses. And that's why would there be drywall out here? Think about where we are. She's like, whatever. That's not a wood rock, Al. And Ed was 25 meters up. And I'm like, Ed, can you believe it? Shreya doesn't believe that. I found a Yukon wood rock. Ed didn't miss a beat. He goes, really? Those are quite rare. You know, like that, right? And then Shreya's face just, you see the brow furrow, and she's thinking. She's on that. She's like, what the fuck is it? Really? A Yukon wood rock? Well, I guess it kind of, because the water was on it, and it was, you know, brighter color and all that. And whatever. She left it at that. We didn't say anymore. I giggled. The next day, we're on a different sandbar. The chopper has dropped us off. It's a rainy day. And so all the rocks, when they're wet, like on sandbar, they look a lot polished. They pop, you know what I mean? There's bright colors and stuff. And the chopper calls us and is like, yeah, weather's coming in. It's too cloudy. I can't come get you guys. You just, hunker down. Right. And I'm talking on the radio with the pilot and whatever. And I see Shreya and she's kind of like looking at the beach and whatever. And she kicks this rock. Right. And I'm like, oh, dear Lord. It's a brindle color. If you know what brindle, like kind of a black and a red, like, the same color as dogs or cows or whatever, they have that color. And she kicks that rock, right? And I see her head kind of turn. And we just finished off the radio, like, okay, guys, we're going to have to stick around here for a while. And Shreya's like, I think that might be a Yukon wood rock, right? And Ed looks at me, right? I'm like, oh, shit. Sarah, the other girl, like, what's
She's going to go back to,
right? I'm like,
back and write a paper about it.
I can't let it go on anymore, Shreya. That's not a Yukon wood. That's an actual rock. You were looking at a piece of plywood the other day, like a Yukon wood rock. I mean, petrified wood does exist, but I'm sorry. I was just yanking on your chain. She's like, I knew it. I knew there was no such thing as a Yukon wood rock. And thinking to myself, well, you didn't, because you just kicked that one and called it a Yukon wood rock out of nowhere, right? Poor
fun.
girl. Oh man, we laughed our asses off over that. But
fun to mess with people,
right? And then we got to this other section, and it was just full of sand and pyrite. And pyrite would be called like fool's gold. It's very shiny, but it's not truly what gold looks like. Gold is dull, a dull yellow orange color. This pyrite is very reflective and very shiny, and look, it's fool's gold. Anyways, when it's all ground up in the sand with the magnetite and hematite and quartzite and all this different, like, makes sand, right? And underwater, especially if you look at it, just twinkles and sparkles. It's absolutely beautiful. I took my hand and scooped it up and had a big handful of sand, and all that pyrite's just twinkling in the sun. I said, Shreya, you see that? That's the whole reason why we're here. That's the gold and the copper we're after. Right? And she's like, oh my God, I'm going to get a picture and take for my boyfriend. He'll never believe it. I said, nope, Shreya, it's pyrite. I'm not letting you take a picture and post it on Facebook and everybody will think you're an absolute moron. No, Shreya.
The stocks of the
I
company
appreciate
plummet.
that you believe me, right? But oh no, I can't let you go with that. She's like, I can't believe anything you say. I'm like, well,
See,
you're probably right. But if I say, hurry up, the chopper's coming, or go get that firewood, you better start listening.
this is what we did before smartphones. We lied to each other.
Right? Yeah.
And it was fun.
It was fun. And up in Dawson, even when I first got there, the cell phone coverage didn't happen in town. So people would literally write a postcard or, get a little piece of paper and put a note and just stick it under your windshield wiper in the car or leave it at the bar for you, because they're like, hey, when Al comes through, give him this message. Or you go to your car and you're like, oh, hey, there's a bonfire tonight out on, Claim 33. That's great. Might as well head out there. I didn't know what was going on. Now I do. Right. It was perfect. But now everyone text messaging and
They're ruining it.
Yeah, they ruin it. Right. If you don't have something nice to say and you can't come find me, what's the point?
You did some. You were working on a television show out there, right?
There was a couple of different ones that had tried to make something happen, and I don't know, for whatever reason, it didn't. And I also haven't sought out the bigger names. But in the beginning, when they first came to the north, like Parker, it was, I think, the second season, and it was Tony. Wasn't really Tony Beats' first season at all. He was going to be the mentor of Parker. Is when I made it there in 2012, and I got a job on Indian River for Tony Beats, and they did an episode called The Dirt, which is basically like behind the scenes kind of a thing, of what's going on there. And so it was The Dirt, the women of Gold Rush. So it was some, the Hoffman's wives and, what they did for the season while they were out there. And Tony's youngest daughter, Monica, was kind of the night foreman, so that's what it is. But she would just basically listen to what Rob the mechanic would say, and then she'd turn around and repeat it to the camera, and the camera thought, oh, great, she knows exactly what she's talking about. But it didn't really make it that much of a difference. And Monica would be, all the other guys that worked for Tony were grizzly old bastards that are like, fuck, get that camera out of my face, like make a visible effort to be like, you're not fucking, flipping them the bird, like, you're not putting this on air. And I said, well, I really don't care. So it was a section where Monica was like telling me, you can't dump here, you got to dump over there. And I'm like, yeah. And the guy rode around with the camera in the truck for a bit, and he's like, so what's the difference between working for Tony and working for Monica? And I said, well, obviously I can understand every word Monica says, and it's not every second word being fuck. But, I've got nothing against big, burly, bearded men, but Monica's a lot easier on the eyes, right? I had the big chuckle, laugh, and whatever. And they end up putting that clip on. And my God, when that aired, people from all over the world were like, oh, holy shit, Big Al, I just saw you on Gold Rush. Right? You know, it was pretty neat. And then they've tried over the years to build a show around what was happening in my life, like with the prospecting and with the different side of actual exploration, where you don't have any money and you're digging with hand tools, a shaft, you know, jackhammer and whatever, and going out and proving ground without having $80,000 to drop on a drill program, which Parker or, you know, any of those other guys would have. It just never really took off. And I don't even know. Then there was another lady that came to town, and she actually had me sign contracts with a talent agent in Los Angeles, and had scripted this whole show called Untold Mysteries of the Arctic, and won it myself. And there's another colorful 5% character in Dawson named Caveman Bill, who lives in a cave on the other side of the river from Dawson City. Yeah, they came up with it's just like Big Al. It wasn't very creative to come up with a nickname. You know, oh, he's big, let's call him Big Al. Or, oh, this guy lives in a cave, we'll call him Caveman Bill. Right? It's not there's not a lot of imagination that goes into this. But yeah, they had us set up for this show, and who knows what happened. It was supposed to be like Hulu or Prime or one of those network things, but I don't know. I think Caroline just ended up doing a lot more work in the Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories about the houses that there's a show about people that live on lakes, all the houseboats, which aren't really boats. They're like just rafts, but everybody lives in Whitehorse, not Whitehorse, excuse me, Yellowknife, on the water up there. So I think that they made an actual show about it.
Wasn't there like a historical drama show that was filmed up there?
Yeah, there was. They did a reenactment type thing about the Klondike.
Right.
And what was the name of that?
I forget now, but it was good. I remember watching it.
It was a 2 or 3 part series that was on TV, and you know, we all got together and watched it.
It's a fascinating part of the history.
It is. It's quite exciting.
Because that would be a big town during the gold rush, right?
Oh, it was massive. There was like 40,000 people when the gold rush happened. It went from being a couple hundred, 30 or 40, to being like 30,000, 40,000 people. It was massive. The film thing's interesting too, because when I first got there, there was a lady that I recognized, but I didn't really recognize her. Her name was Lulu Keating, and flaming red hair, a little bit older now, not quite my mom's age, but the generation younger. And it just struck me as, gee whiz, this woman is incredibly familiar. I couldn't place it. And then come the springtime, that was in the winter when I first moved there. Well, I made it there in the middle of the summer, but I stayed that first winter, so it was the fall that I met her. And in the springtime, she had gotten a commission to make a film, and she was a film producer, and I didn't really clue into that just yet, but whatever, we signed some paperwork, to give away, all my rights of whatever. You can use my image on this movie. And the little conversation, oh, she's from Nova Scotia, Antigonish area. That's great. I'm from Bear River, And then when she saw my name on the rights, paper, it's Accent Hilton. My mother's and my father's last names are mine. And she said, oh, Hilton. I knew a fellow from Bear River named Hilton, Jonathan Hilton. And I was like, yeah, that was my dad. Dad had a thing for redheads, so I can imagine that he would have charmed her up quite something. But as it turns out, and I remember, Lulu made a film for the National Film Board of Canada called Enterprising Women, and it took 5 or 6 ladies that, at the time, I didn't see anything different. They were just who they were. But nowadays, or even back then, I guess, they would have been seen as kind of cutting edge and enterprising. One of the ladies had a fish farm in BC that she was, farming salmon and dealing with men cutting her nets or, sabotaging this or that, and not wanting, she didn't want to give up. She refused. And there was a lady that had a business that taught women how to do bookwork and, have their own business. There was one that had a bakery.
Like 80s?
Yeah, it was 87, I believe, is when that was put out. And my mom was a seamstress and had accent on silk and batik silk scarves and took the fabric and made gorgeous gowns and all that kind of whatnot. And so Lulu had shot that film for the National Film Board of Canada, and there was images of me, being a little 6-year-old, 7-year-old kid walking back from school, and because Mom was doing a single mother's thing, like there was a play area and someone could come and shop, and it wasn't just you have to leave your kids at home type deal, which was, I guess, cutting edge at the time. I don't know. Yeah. But anyways, it would have been like 30 some odd years later. Here I am in another one of Lulu's films, like
And you remembered her somehow. There was a part of something she was familiar.
yeah, she was familiar. Once
you had seen
I
her when you were
remembered, it
6 or
clicked.
7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it clicked.
Wow.
I knew, right? But up until that point in time, I didn't know, and I was just like, there is something incredibly familiar about this woman, but I can't quite place it. Well, I was 6 or 7 years old the last time I had seen her, right? And now here I am, her asking me to be in another one of her films. It was an interesting film about a gentleman who had passed away, and she was kind of doing an autobiography, and he had walked him and his brother from like Whitehorse up the river in the wintertime and all the way to Dawson City, and made it there just in the spring, and had to carry huge birch poles because the river was breaking up and they didn't want to fall through. So if they did fall through, they'd
Fetch up on the poles.
the pole would be wider, and they'd have their abdomen over the middle of it and be able to get out of the water, right? So that's what she was using us to, coming to town in the springtime, carrying these big poles and seeing the old Anglican church, and then going into the pit for a beer. And he ended up winning like a hotel it was a cab company on a game of cards, and then that turned into a hotel.
very
And then,
Yukon.
and one thing led to another, right?
I think Donald Trump's grandfather made his original million up there, right?
He was on
selling,
the Dead Horse Trail,
selling like hotel
Bennett
rooms
Lake.
and food, and
Yeah.
maybe even prostitutes,
he
stuff like
was,
that.
maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
But that's where the Trump family started their whole fortune, was
That's
during
when
the
they
gold.
got it. Yeah, the gold rush, and not off mining.
No. You make more money selling the supplies for the dreamers. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it was quite something. The people that made the big money were the ones that mined the miners.
Yeah.
They did the Belinda Maroney, the business women, the men that, were able to see, hey, I'll make more money selling eggs and baked beans.
Beer.
Yeah. Beer and building lots and lumber and that kind of stuff. Oh my goodness, they made it. They were the wealthy ones.
Yeah.
Because they left with all their money. The miners that made 10 times more than that all died broke. Ice cold, poor, back in some old cabin somewhere, and they'd had $27 million go through their hand back then.
Yeah.
Right?
Nothing left.
Nothing.
For,
No, they spent it all on champagne and ladies. Well,
Yeah.
we made it back.
We made it back.
Fresh beer.
Fresh beer. Cheers. So, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, I know you're Ukrainian, or your background is Ukrainian, because your mom would invite me to Ukrainian Christmas.
It's true. Yep, it's true.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on there.
My grandfather was born in the Ukraine. Mom is a first generation Canadian citizen, as far as that's concerned. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was born. Bubba, Mom's grandfather, would have immigrated without his family, and didn't talk about that 7 or 8 years or whatever that he had to just work and save and send it back. And then finally the wife and the 2 small children, one of which he had never met, which would have been my grandfather, because the kind of love child that happened when I'll see you later, and at 9 months after he left, Grandpa was born, right? And so he was just a little boy when he came over, and Thunder Bay is where they kind of grew up. I guess Guido would have migrated up there where all the Finns and the Poles and the Ukrainians, and they went up to build the breakwaters and the grain elevators for all the prairie, grain.
So what year would that have been roughly?
So Grandpa was born, let me think. Mom was born in 51, and Grandpa would have been 19 or 20. So he was born in the 30s. Yeah, I should know that. But
So that was like a large influx of immigration around that time?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
big time.
Was it because would there be conflict going on in Ukraine? Yeah, of course.
It was right before World War II.
Right. That's when the whole switch over communism was going on. People were fleeing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was tumultuous to say the least. Like everybody wanted to get out.
Right.
I think and that's why there was such a huge amount of Polish and Finnish and
Right.
Ukrainian and Eastern European.
They were starving people that wouldn't
Yep.
go with the way.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Auntie Eleanor, who was a little older than my grandfather, says stories, because Grandpa would have been 7 or 8 or whatever when they migrated to or immigrated to Canada, and so all that time growing up, going to school if they could or doing whatever. But she says they were of the class that if they were walking to school and they saw some fresh cow dung in the field, they ran over and put their feet in it to warm their feet up on their way to school.
Oh,
Right, they had burlap and with straw stuck in it, and that was their kind of overshoes in the winter. and everybody smelled like cow dung. I mean, everybody,
we
you know,
don't.
whatever, right?
We don't understand how poor
No.
people were.
Well, at that time, they would have kept the animals in the same building as them for warmth, right? In the house, right? Just off the backside or whatever. So it was a different world altogether. Yeah, they were super young. So Auntie Eleanor was a little older than Grandpa. She knew what was really going on, whereas Grandpa was just a young kind of toddler, innocent, whatever. Auntie Eleanor would have been 11 or 12 or something when they immigrated. So she was conscious, you know, a young little girl taking it all in like a sponge, right? But yeah, it was not easy, that's for sure. And so Mom has incredibly deep Ukrainian ties. I grew up with, I mean, the tradition of Ukrainian Christmas. Mom always had it. It was a lovely community event. Everybody would come over and, you know, celebrate. You didn't have to be Ukrainian. It was just the old world calendar's Christmas and, you know, some good food and traditional, you know,
Well, that's beautiful though, right? Like that's how we keep these things alive.
It was, yeah. And there are people now that come up to me still and say, oh, some of the best times I ever had was going to your Ukrainian Christmas parties, right? It was very memorable and it was good energy, and Mom came from the right place. So, and she still tries to do it now. I mean, kids are a little older and moved away or whatever, but she has friends that, you know, really enjoy it. It's not like it was where there was definitely, you know, 40 or 50 people at the house. Now it might only be 10 or 12, but it's still the same, you know, positive energy and good food.
Have you been to Ukraine?
I've never been to Ukraine. No, I've only.
Now's not a good time.
No, now would not be a good time to travel there. I don't think it would.
Hopefully.
Soon.
Hopefully there can be peace.
Well, that would be the ultimate outcome, but I don't know. I have a lovely Ukrainian friend that was born there. He's our age and lives here now and is quite successful at what he does. But, you know, in light of the last few days and Trump getting in and, you know, president-elect and all that kind of situation, he's quite apprehensive as to what's going to happen to the country of Ukraine now with Trump and Putin and, you know, who knows? Like, it's just, the world is so messed up right now.
It is. But I think Trump is committed to seeing it end.
Well, that would be ideal.
I think that's
ideal.
ideal.
We don't need any wars.
No, we don't. Or we have wars. We just don't need bigger wars.
No.
Because right now the North Koreans are involved.
Yeah.
And now the South Koreans are there to observe. But what does that mean? So they're watching each other in a battlefield situation just because things might pop off there. Like
one of the, you know, I can weigh in on this just ever so slightly and somewhat on an emotional or an ever so ignorant intellectual level, but like living up in the Yukon and going and, you know, doing bush work and doing things, I couldn't care less about what's going on in the news, and politics are even less interesting to me.
I'm too engaged. I probably need to join you for a while so I can calm down.
Yeah, well, you know, it's just, I don't find that I have the room in my brain and in my heart to deal with all. There's nothing I can do. You know, I would be an incredible warrior if someone came and said, we're invading your land and we're going to take this away from you, like hell, you know. And like my friend did when he was coming in from fishing, and all of a sudden he gets a message and it's like, oh, my mother's taking shelter in a subway, you know, station because they're bombing the streets, and you know,
Can't imagine.
He got things together, and within a week he was flying over there and to speak the language very clearly and to understand what was going on and to have connections to North America and fundraising and whatever. He was an incredible asset to the resistance, right? And to the civilians that were trying to both get out and that were going to stay and needed some supplies. He did a wonderful, you know, I think it was 4 or 5 months of like, you know, every day it was getting shot at every day. You know, there were times when he would buy a vehicle, fill it up full of, you know, bulletproof vests and first aid equipment and drive it in there. And then the bridge to this only access to the city gets blown up. And so he's, you know, 3 or 4 days there stuck in that city without being able to get away. You know, I couldn't imagine. Right. But it's because his mother, his sisters, his family, like they're there, the deep roots.
Do what you gotta do.
You do what you got to do. I couldn't see myself taking up arms and flying over there and saying, I'm going to fight for Ukraine. I have Ukrainian blood in me. You know, I don't know. It's just not me. Right. Now, that being said, when I was working in the in casino in the bush, there was one lovely lady that was doing air quality samples and audio quality samples. We'd set these microphones up in the middle of nowhere.
Really?
Yeah.
record nature.
Yeah, mosquitoes basically and wind. I don't know if there was much else to record, but
Wow.
Yeah, you need baselines, right? And
that makes sense.
baseline data and stuff
To see if the impact of the work is changing and stuff. Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah. So her partner had grown up and had a dream to be in the military, and then I don't remember the specific reason, but something like flat feet or had asthma or something. There was one relatively minute reason why he wasn't able to get into the armed forces, and that was kind of heartbreaking to him. And then I guess when this insurgents started up, he took the opportunity and went over there and wasn't able to get involved with a militia, but he was able to get involved with I think it was South American forces that had taken upon themselves to go up and help the Ukrainian resistance. And so, he supplied himself with all of his kit, basically went to Canucks and, Greenwood here and bought his whole outfit and went over there, and they said, hey, anybody's a good body.
Oh yeah, they're taking volunteers.
Yeah, they're taking volunteers. So he was then nothing more than a tactical human. He couldn't speak the language. He didn't have a whole wealth of military training, but he had the desire, and he bought the gear, and he showed up and said, I'm willing to help your outfit. And they said, okay, join the party. Right. So I couldn't see myself doing something like that.
And hopefully no one has to.
Right.
Let's stop this madness.
It is insane.
2024. Why are we still killing each other? I remember when I was grade 6, was it 1989? And when the Berlin Wall comes down, I'm like, yay, the end of the Cold War. Great, peace. I thought, the world, everything's great. We've evolved past this foolishness.
Yeah, we all thought that, to be fair.
Yeah. And then a couple years later, Desert Storm happens. I'm like, fuck. We haven't learned a damn thing.
The Lord of War, that movie that came out with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Hey, as long as there's $1 to be made off a bullet.
That's the thing. That's
people
the thing. It's the money.
They're going to push.
It's about the money. And why is Ukraine such a sought after property right now? It's the breadbasket of Europe. I think that 15% of the world's calories come out of Ukraine, but also they've realized all these minerals under there that we need for all these electric cars and smartphones, all this stuff. That's why the Russians want it and the Americans want it.
And it's on Black Sea, it's got shipping, quite easy.
Now, the rumor is that they've had a peace deal signed twice and had it written up on them, ripped up. Because...
Who did the ripping?
Well, Boris Johnson's supposed to win over one time and told Zelensky and Putin to tear it up. So I don't know who the good guys are or who the bad guys are, but I know that a lot of people want what's growing on top of the ground and a lot of people want what's under the ground.
There's a lot of rich people that have major concerns in what's going to happen.
And every time the Americans sell them a bomb on an IOU, they have to pay that back.
Natural resources.
You know that the Americans... The British just paid off their World War II debt to the Americans. Guess what year?
2023.
2018.
Right.
From World War II, they just paid off their war debt in 2018.
So what's that, 75 years or something?
We'll just give you the IOUs. You pay us later. Pay us later.
Money in the bank.
Yeah.
It's all about that passive income, I guess, right?
Right. But if you owe that
interest
money,
plus interest,
and they get all the food that grows, they get all the minerals. You own it then. You own them. If you have a friend who's in debt and you're loaning them money and they're in a bad spot, they kind of owe you. And
whatever they're going to go about doing, whatever the work is, whether it's not they're farming or growing things or sweat equity in an office, they're still got to pay you.
I don't know if they're being invaded by Russians or Ukraine or Americans or both at this point. But they have very valuable things, and it's a hotly contested area, and there's human lives suffering.
That's
human lives.
The sad part.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate.
Yeah, there's people that are going to die, and then there's the people that are going to live with the memory of that war, and then there's all the loved ones on either side.
Everyone that's being displaced too. There's a whole community of lovely people that are here that don't speak the language, that are trying to raise their kids, that are trying to find jobs, that are trying to
without a dad because he's back there fighting.
Right, they don't have anything. They're just trying to make it happen. I feel for them because they're uprooted and
trauma.
Yeah, exactly. The kids are turning to petty crime and doing whatever. Just why? Because they're bored. They don't relate to anyone around here. It's not their world. Right? Yeah. They're not mature enough to really understand the next level of things, so they just petty crime or, like being bad, like little kids.
Well, of course you're going to act out.
Right? Stealing a truck here or there or doing something, breaking windows with rocks.
Yeah.
They're just pent up frustration and not really realizing they don't understand the politics of this thing.
No.
They don't understand
I don't
anything.
know if the politicians understand the politics of these things.
Valid point.
These things the media only shows us so much. They don't want us to know the whole story.
Look at this hand.
Exactly.
Hand on the table, just stabbing you.
Exactly. When there's so much valuable stuff there. Like, why do you think they've been fighting in the Middle East? Oil. And now we're switching to batteries. Well, it's not a coincidence that the battle's gone to Ukraine now because the minerals to make batteries are under their dirt.
Right?
This is not an accident.
Putin knows. So does Trump. So do I don't. They all do, right? And the other thing is, I don't know. What does our conversation accomplish?
I don't know. Well,
Makes us feel better.
Well,
I don't know. It's just, I think it is important to discuss. I think it's important for even for a moment, we're living an easy life. We're going to go next door. We're going to we're drinking beer. We're sitting here.
Yeah, it's warm.
We're going to have burger. We drive home in our cars. But at least for a moment, to just have our hearts broken for people that are suffering and those kinds of things, that's something. That's some kind of humanity.
Yeah, the acknowledgement.
The acknowledgement that people are listening. Hopefully their hearts breaking a little bit, thinking, it's not just, these are real people's lives.
They are.
That will be tormented for generations. This trauma will live on in them.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I say, oh, well, what difference is it going to make us having this conversation? Well, in one way, nothing. In another way, like you say, it broadens some people's, ideals and opinions on it. And then I look at it and say, oh, well, what my mom did is she said, well, I don't care about the politics. I know that my people are hurting and anything I can do. So she did a Ukrainian egg, like pisanki is what they call it, where you make art. Drawings on eggs and with wax and dye them different colors. And then when you heat the wax up, all this brilliant artwork and multicolored, imagery comes out on this lovely egg. And, the community that was able to engage in that as a little thing that says, well, what can I do? Well, you can do a little something like this. So Mom was able to send thousands and thousands of dollars over to the Ukraine. And, whether it was people like my friend that was there buying first aid, gear and bulletproof vests and gas and cigarettes and taking it to the people on the front lines, or whether it was, hey, we're providing wool socks that are being sent to the ladies that, or baby basket,
Hopefully it's going to people in need.
It's going to people in need, right? That are being displaced, whether it's in Poland or Ukraine or whether they've gotten out or whether it's in Cornwallis base, if you're able to help on a humanity side of things and have a discussion about the human cost, then you are going to be of benefit. You are going to be in service to your fellow human. If we're sitting here talking about the political, repercussions and who's after the big money and why they actually dropped the first bomb and all that kind of stuff, well, at this level, like for you and I, there's no difference.
It's like that tangled fishing line.
Yeah.
Where do you cut it? Let's just end it and start again, and have some peace.
Right. Now, if you were incredibly poor and that was your only fishing hook and you needed the rest of that line, you'd think twice. I mean, do you have a line stretcher? That's a very important thing. If you don't have a rope stretcher or you don't have a board stretcher, you're kind of, you're now coming up with creative solutions.
Everybody just needs to go the hell home, mind their damn business.
Right. Don't cut the line at any cost. That's right. Go the hell home, Russians.
Yeah.
And half those boys don't know what the hell's going on. They're scared.
Well, a lot of them are prisoners.
Right. They've been told, you better get in that tank and drive south.
And I've heard that Russians have lost 6 million citizens. Not a lot of them. I think it's like 300,000 to the battle. But the rest of them are just young men that just fled the country because they don't want to be drafted.
To do with it. Yeah.
They were up to over 600,000 casualties.
600. I think they're losing 1,000 people a day.
I heard about like a projection. They're going to hit 1 million casualties either by Christmas or sort of February. Or
Merry Christmas. Fuck.
I have a feeling that it's going to go on for a long time. The Ukrainians have that same level of tenacity as the Scotch, where they guerrilla warfare and the absolute. They don't know the term "give up." Right? They're going to start being creative. They're fighting back in different levels. That you just go, well, is it worth it now? Is it really worth it? Because these guys are not going to give up.
But can't they just end it?
Can't
they just the Russians go home?
Well, it's up to the Russians to do that.
Maybe
it is.
Maybe
they're the ones that have to do it. They have to make that decision.
But there's there's evidence that the Russians have wanted to go home a couple times, and the Americans have not endorsed it and supported it. Because everybody wants what's there.
But yeah, it's valuable.
Everybody wants what's there. Yeah, it's like there's like two big dogs with a bone right now, and the poor bone is Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the Americans are always the good guys. I really don't think. I could be wrong.
Historically, I mean, you've been...
Historically, they like if there is a crisis someplace where there's no value, people get slaughtered. If there's a crisis somewhere where there's a resource, they get involved. What a weird coincidence.
I know, it's weird that...
What a weird coincidence.
It's true.
It's almost like they're looking out for their interests or
I'm
something.
going to need security now talking shit like this.
Oh, that's right.
But I just want peace. I just want peace.
Cheers to peace.
Cheers to peace. Let's hope.
Yep.
Let's hope we can have some peace.
Remembrance days coming upon us, lest we forget.
Yeah.
Never again. I mean, history
Hopefully
repeats
never
itself,
again.
but like if you're a little more self-aware and intellectual, then you can understand what never again means and try and work towards that at all cost. That's what I'd like to think would be happening in a perfect world, but obviously I'm not financially invested in the arms race or in natural resources.
That's the people
to such
who are
a degree.
doing this.
Well, that's right.
The people who are doing this are the ones that are profiting from it.
You shouldn't be allowed to profit from war.
You shouldn't. I read that book, War is a Racket. Spindley Butler. It's a short read. Everyone should read it. We're going to try and do an episode on it and discuss this sometime with a friend of mine. But exactly that. He's like that the businessmen are the ones that are making the decisions. They're friends with the politicians. They're doing these things, and they're sending people into war.
And they don't feel like they have a responsibility for what's going on.
No
and it's not their
repercussions.
sons or daughters on the front line.
No.
It's not even happening on their property.
No. They got
It's
nothing to
happening
lose.
somewhere else.
It's not even happening on their half of the world.
No,
really.
and they're profiting off of it.
Yeah.
And they have been forever. This book was written in the 1930s,
See?
and nothing's fucking changed.
No.
1,000 people a day are dying over there right now.
But did the Roman legions, act differently, right? Did Caesar and all these?
No, we're a bunch of
They had-
territorial apes.
Exactly.
Still,
And they were
2024.
pushing and doing the exact same thing. History repeats itself, and unless you're self-aware enough and conscious in the effort of what is truly good and truly attainable, and work towards that every day, then you're never gonna overcome the corrupt.
What is that? Some of us can be so enlightened and kind and loving, and some of us can be so greedy.
I don't know, what is it, right? The level of consciousness you want to put in your life, like if you just don't care.
There's something to be said for that.
Yeah, right.
Also, mental illness though. Some of it is just to do with people just.
100%. Yeah. No, you just can't. You don't even know why. You just don't know why, right? And you don't want to question it. And gee whiz, do you really want to know why? Like when it boils down, like now, if you know, then you have to act. Because if you don't act, then you're just as accountable and responsible for as the next guy.
It's foreign to me. I don't know. I saw a video recently of a guy mugging another guy in the street, and he knocks him down, and this guy's on the ground, and this other fella is kicking at his head, and this guy's trying to get up, and he kicks him in the head, and his head hits the pavement, and he's kicked at him like 5 or 6 times. He knew what he was doing. It wasn't the first time. Kicks that guy in the head till he goes unconscious, takes his wallet, and is walking away in the video, just looking at what he got. And it's so disgusting. Like, how could you kick someone in the head and watch their head bounce off the pavement and then rejoice as you walk away looking what's in their wallet? And it's the exact same thing that's happening on this big scale in these countries. It's the exact same fucking thing. And I do not understand how someone can be so disgusting and selfish to inflict that kind of harm on another human being to just take what they want.
You have humanity in your soul. There's a level of awareness for other humans, right? Obviously, that person can't have any level of empathy or awareness to, hey, what if it was that guy boot fucking my head into the pavement? American History X type shit, right?
Yeah.
Like, how would I feel about that? Well, no. You don't think about it. That's the last thing you think about. It's kill or be killed. It's pull the trigger and not worry. It's I'm broke. You've got money. I've already started this. Screw you, buddy. Yeah. You're tough luck, right? I mean, in one way, that's a mentality that you need to adapt in order to get through the hells of life,
Right.
right? If you choose the other. That's why a lot of the things that we were talking about earlier about, the higher level of consciousness or the manifestation or the vibrations of your energy and the magnetic poles of what balance can be and how you can control it as a human. Well, you have to be incredibly sound of spirit, and you have to be able to elevate yourself to that next level of humanity that says, this is what I'm holding on to. This is what I will be. Otherwise, you just don't care. Step on the next guy to get to where you need to be. I don't care. You're messing with my life, and kill or be killed, eat or be eaten. It's the same as,
How does that end?
It doesn't. It means
because
that
once you've lived in that trauma, you're going to be more like that, and it just seems like a cancer that could just grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would.
How do good people say enough?
It's personal. That's a personal choice.
I think self-awareness has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, it's personal. It's where you are and your level of what.
So we tell
is
all
acceptable.
the politicians that we're going to hold them down and put mushrooms in their mouth.
Right. Let them be aware, whether it's a good trip or a bad trip.
Take a
Taking
trip.
it.
But it's also like taking responsibility for what you're doing.
Right.
Like if selling weapons, if you're a country and you're defending yourself and you need to make weapons because someone else is attacking you, I'd say that's perfectly legitimate.
Defense.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's perfectly fine. But if
I'm
you're
all
gonna-
for defense. We're in a military town. I love these guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should be meeting our 2% NATO commitment for GDP for defense. We should mind our goddamn business.
Yeah,
Yep.
but that's it. But it's a different thing if you've got money invested in attacking other people, and if you've got
Right.
stocks and shares in a company that's bombing the crap out of another country. That's
And the
not
same companies that are in the mineral mining and in the state. The thing now is there's like big companies like the Black Rocks and these guys. They own everything. They own the minerals companies. They own the media. They own the
We used to have
pharmaceuticals.
laws against this.
They own all that stuff. So they have so much influence. They can pull these things off because they control the media.
And they have the whole deferral of responsibility thing. And nobody
Yeah.
feels like they're responsible for anything because everything's, I was told to do this and it's fine.
Yep. Exactly. It's not
Big
my problem.
money.
I was asked. I was told.
Yeah.
It's just a cog in the wheel.
Yeah.
And you're going to pay me how much? Yeah, definitely.
Sad.
It is. Those are the ones that
And somehow
are
they can sleep at night.
unfortunately
We're going to
making
need a
moves,
shake-up.
right? But how do you get over it? Well, it might not be the best solution, but my solution was to go north and remove myself from all the different
We're all
sources
coming.
of media.
And you're happy
We're all
for
coming with you, Al.
And look, I'll tell you, it's a
all
serious
coming.
thing.
We're coming with
It's
all
going
of
to
our
take a
problems.
while to get rid of all the fresh water and all the wild game and all the actual firewood.
Yeah.
And the people that have bought ammunition and have rifles and know what it means to reload shells, and not because I'm going to join a war and go and fight people, but because I am going to harvest a moose this year. And because if something happens, and that grizzly comes into my cabin or my area, I can defend myself.
Yeah.
Right. And then to say, well, I do have the infrastructure of the trucks that are not computer run. I do have the quads or the boats that are very simple, old school mechanical that are able to be fixed, with basic, tools, and keep moving forward with that, because there's going to become a point in time when, when shit hits the fan and the food's rotting in Walmart and they can't ship it, off the sea cans in the harbor because the people are and we've had taste of
That's what
this.
I'm worried about.
We've had taste of this with COVID and with whatever.
Yeah.
When it's going to go south, it's not just going to go south a little bit. It's going to go catastrophically
For a lot
south
of people.
And
for a lot of
quickly.
people.
I
And
hear a
quickly.
lot about the power grid, how vulnerable the power grid is. There's only a few, like an organized terrorist group. It only take a handful of people to shut down the power all across the
There was
States.
a podcast, and forgive me if it was Joe Rogan or if it wasn't or something along these lines, but Trump was talking to them, and it said he had gone down to the border and did some, like schmoozing or whatever, handshaking. And there's a difference between border security guards that are dressed in green and border security guards that are dressed in brown. One of which is like Texas state, border security, and the other is federal border security. And they will both arrest you and process you and, all that good stuff. And the Texas ones will drive you back across the border and kick you out and say, good luck, go try it again. And the federal ones will say, okay, where is it that you're going to your whatever? Here's a one-way bus ticket to Los Angeles if that's where you're going. Oh, by the way, you've got court date in 4 years.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've been processed, you're going to get tried for
That doesn't
coming
seem
in.
safe, does it?
No, it doesn't. But it seems a hell of a lot safer than having to go back across the border and try it again. So what he was saying is that people are running to the brown uniforms because they want to get processed. They want to get, let in.
And all those people just paid $5,000 to the cartel to even get to there. Because
right?
the security is tighter on the cartel line just a little bit further. So if they get sent back, they got to come up with another $5,000.
Right. And so then what he was saying is that what they happened to notice was a trend of basically military age men, single men, military age, that are above average in their physical fitness, that are of Asian descent, that have come across the border and are now not documented, not registered, not whatever. Let's say there could be 15,000 of them that came across.
No, the official guesstimate is 33,000 a year for the past 3 or 4 years.
Right, and
that's a lot of guys.
Then you look at who are they? What are they doing? Well, we don't know. Where did they go? I don't know. But every one of them can communicate with each other on Facebook Messenger or whatever, a text message network. And then they look at, well, next to our huge power stations or our major military bases, there's, certain entities that own property, vast.
Chinese bought property next to all the Air Force bases, farmland next to all. Are we suspicious yet, guys?
Right. If something's going to happen, for the grid to go down, to have a synchronized little attack that's going to happen at any point in time at all of the major power stations on the grid across the country could very easily be undertaken by 30,000 unregistered Chinese, nationalists that have an ulterior motive.
Brett Weinstein, I saw him on a podcast. He talked about he went down in that Sumbar area or whatever. There's a place there's no road down in Central America, and he found that the regular migrant workers had just makeshift camps, just like tents and stuff like that. But the Chinese people that were coming across the border, barbed wire, shipping containers, high tech, phone app that showed them the way.
Right.
They don't just come up with that on their own.
They don't.
They don't come up with that on their own. There's a government organization behind these camps to help them through the way. So there's roughly 34,000 Chinese military age men a year.
Above average physical fitness.
Yeah.
That are it's basically
military
100,000
boots,
people.
military haircuts,
right,
coming in, and they're just around.
They just disappear.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it? So if at any stage in the game, the power grid is incredibly vulnerable and could be knocked out in a heartbeat. Same with the financial, all that tech stuff, right? Anyhow, in my mind,
you're set
to escape up north. Rural Nova Scotia is a great place to be. Don't get me wrong.
It is. It's better. I'd rather be here than downtown Toronto.
100%. But if it came down to it, you are fighting tooth and nail, right? You are. If someone's encroaching on your property, or the health inspector's coming because Buddy walked his dog through the dinner room, and all of a sudden he sees that, he's going to shut you down. Well, is that big of a deal? Not really. It's not like the damn dog lives in there, right? But it doesn't matter. He's got the rules, and he can wave his finger, and he can whatever. Up north. Oh, come on, man. Everybody's got a dog. It's not that big of a deal. You had to drive 6 hours to get here. Are you really going to create that much of a problem? I just came out of the woods with a load of firewood in this beat up old ratty old truck. Does it need to be registered and insured? Are you really pulling me over? And that's what you should just know, hey, even if I am selling it to the town, that's providing a service for a lot of people that can't get out there and to do it. Right. Hey, even if I'm just driving straight to my little cabin and that firewood's for my personal use, come on, you're going to make me pay $1,600 a year for insurance on a vehicle I might drive, at 5 very strategic times in the year.
Right? If things get desperate,
right?
What do the rules matter?
What do the rules matter? They don't, right?
Yeah. And people's dignity and their humanity is going to go out the window after the power's out for a while too. Oh, I remember when I was a young man, there was a snowstorm and the power's out for 9 days. The Weymouth, the old pop factory with the water fountain there. Yeah. People were lined up getting the water. Someone butt in line because they didn't want to wait in line for water, and there was a fist fight.
Yeah, I believe it.
There was a fist fight.
That's Lord of the Flies type shit there.
Yeah, and the power's only out 9 days.
Right.
How bad do people get when the power's out for
what do they say?
A month?
There's only maybe on average you have enough supplies to get you through the next 2 or 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, and we knew why the power was out. We knew the power was out because of a snowstorm. What if the power just goes out?
Right.
And we don't know why.
Right. And how long is it going to be out for?
And the phones go down and everything. People people are very decent human beings when their needs are met.
When their needs are met. When they aren't.
When they're desperate.
Yeah, you're only 3 missed meals away from like a revolution, right?
Yeah.
That's what they say.
That's what they say.
It doesn't surprise me. Now, if you go up into my freezer in the Yukon, boy, we'll last for the whole winter. You know, like there's more food and staples and rice and moose and, you know, caribou.
And it wasn't that long ago when people here did that.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
It was October. You'd have your food put away for the
Root
whole
cellars.
winter.
I mean, you have
You're
it all
working
jarred
on
up.
that all summer, all your
Yep.
preserves, all your meat, all your root cellar. But nobody does that now.
No, it's a lot of work.
What do you have? I think the average home has like 3 days of food on hand.
Mr. Noodles and Kraft Dinner,
Yeah.
you know, junk that's...
You can't hunt on that kind
No,
of sustenance. You can't fight on that kind of food.
No.
You really can't.
You can't even grow a garden with that kind of energy and sustenance.
No.
It's not sustainable. It's just not going to happen.
And how many homes are completely reliant on electrical heat for heat pumps?
Oh man, your heat pump
I
goes
know we
down.
sound like crazy conspiracy theorists. We sound like people on that show, doomsday preppers, but these things are real. We do have enemies, folks. People don't like us. There was just a plot last week exposed that the Russians were trying to put bombs on planes inbound to Canada and America. Did you see that?
No, I
We're
didn't.
on their shit list too.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. 9/11.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, whether they're jealous or whether they want what we've got or whether they just don't want it to be
Well, we've been fucking around in their neighborhood for a long time for cheap oil.
right.
I don't, you know, we've made our enemies.
Oh, goodness,
We've made our enemies.
even internally.
Yeah.
You start messing with natives and you know local see what's going to happen, and we don't need to get into that, but it's
Right.
happening right here in our home.
And that's what comes, like, there's ways, we need to have an economy, we need to make money, but we need to do it in a way that honors the nature and humanity and each other
Together,
together.
that's it. I don't care what your nationality is or where you came from. We're all
Yeah.
just on this stupid planet together,
Yeah.
right? Make it make it enjoyable.
For as many people as
Yeah,
possible.
for as many people as possible.
Yeah.
Right, that's it. That's all you can do. You know, so like in my humble mentality, when I go back up there, bottom line is if you're here, you're here. Just like when the gold rush happened, boy, there's a certain amount of struggle and a certain amount of camaraderie and humanity that's involved with the simple fact that you exist right here, right now. I'll help you out. I'll give you the shirt off my back. Let's do this together, right? But if you go up there and you get established and then all of a sudden something happens down south and people just like look at when there's a fire in Fort McMurray or whatever, the amount of people that just overwhelmed Edmonton, like Edmonton couldn't handle it anymore. Boom, overwhelmed Red Deer. Red Deer couldn't take it. Calgary's the same. You know, they're just pushing down, and you're almost helpless. Going, man, you just maxed our infrastructure. You just maxed everything to the nine. Well, is that what's going to happen with people flooding north? What's a border? Who really cares when stuff hits the fan? There's going to be Americans jumping in their trucks, driving north, saying we're going to Alaska or whatever, stopping along the way.
And right now we have like sustainability, you know, with like hunting and all that stuff. The government hands out licenses of how many deer you can get. Well, if the grocery store's closed, them deer,
You go stop poaching. Go stop it.
and they're done in
Yeah.
a season or two.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah.
There will be nothing
You have
left.
to go further and further.
Yeah.
And then it becomes down to the people that actually have the infrastructure. It's not just road hunting.
No.
You know, it's not just the slaughter that happens because, you know, it was
You're
overwhelming
not beating
numbers.
them up with apples.
No,
Because if
exactly.
you have apples, you're eating the damn apples.
That's 100% true.
Yeah.
100% true.
Yeah.
Whereas up there, you really do it. It's not for the faint of heart. You have to know what you're doing or you're going to put yourself in a situation that is not good at all. And very
Well,
fast.
We talk about that a lot. It's like some of this can be voluntary. We can voluntarily cause ourselves a little bit of suffering, you know, work out, plant a garden, do these things. You can do that on your own terms and be ready for stuff, or it could just be imposed on you.
You got no choice.
You got no choice. I'd rather impose that discomfort myself and get myself ready,
Yep.
put in my firewood.
Is it really discomfort to get yourself ready? It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it is. It does, but it's way better. Like putting
yeah.
yourself through that, the
It's a
physical
challenge.
fitness,
It's a
all those kinds
challenge.
of things.
You know,
It's a challenge, but like,
discomfort in the most wholesome possible way.
Right. And it is good for us, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be imposed on you. I'd rather practice on my garden while the superstore's open than learn how to garden when the superstore's closed.
oh yeah, and I'm learning that right now.
pressure,
Well, you
yeah.
remember my strawberries, right? And
Yeah.
I grew some food myself, and it's fine.
Yeah, but how
I'm
long-
I'm not going to live off
How long could your family of 3 live on what you produced this year?
an
Some
afternoon.
strawberries. an afternoon. One
Yeah.
one strawberry shortcake.
Yeah, yeah. And that's I think a lot of us.
There's not a lot of calories in cucumbers, right?
No, there aren't.
And
Pretty
I
watery.
think that we sound like crazy conspiracy theorists, but these things happen.
There's
Wars
conspiracy
happen.
theories and there's conspiracy
Pandemics
theories.
happen.
Like wars have happened. We've
Food
seen
has
this.
been used as a weapon before. That's why your people from Ukraine are here, because Stalin
100%.
was starving them out.
You better
These
believe it.
things have been done.
Yeah.
Under the guise of communism being the most perfect, utopia.
Gonna solve all the
Everyone will
problems.
share. It'll be beautiful.
It'll be beautiful.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Except when it doesn't work.
Right.
But yeah. But
But there is some beauty to like getting back to nature. It doesn't, like you say, Ben, it doesn't have to be miserable. It can be beautiful. It can be an exercise. It can be good for the family. It can be good for your soul, for your mind, your body. Like just exactly the kind
just
of thing.
spend
you're
less
doing.
time on TikTok.
I would love for us province to be in a position like ready for this kind of stuff.
And it could be.
Make enough
100%.
food. Everybody be fit, healthy, strong.
Canada would have no problem if they kept their resources to themselves, not in a bad way, not in a selfish way, but just like, come on now, right? Like,
Yeah.
we got more oil and gas and more, natural resources.
Nature.
We can produce our own batteries. We can produce our own solar power, our own wind, water, everything. We can do it. We got our own food. We got our own everything. But
Well,
yet,
we kind of
ship it
do.
all away.
We have the potential to have our own food, but we buy cheaper shit from Brazil
course.
and all these other places.
oh no, we raise cows here, send them to America, let them get slaughtered and processed down there, and then we buy those frozen, beef patties back from Costco.
Yeah,
It's insane.
it is.
Instead of going down the road and
The
spending
D'Aubins in
$2
Bridgetown.
more at the farmer's market to get some nice, beautiful,
Yeah.
buy a half a cow, get it butchered up and put it in your freezer.
Yeah.
Not everybody has the infrastructure to have a deep freezer that can fit that or be able to pay the power bill to have that plugged in all the time.
See, and this, folks, is what you get when you're living in the north with nature.
It's true.
But you live in that tension. You see this nature that could eat you or you eat
Oh,
it.
100%. Yeah.
The conditions change could kill you. We forget that. We forget that because we live in such comfort and
Oh,
wealth.
man.
Because we
Yeah,
get a little
you're
bit cold.
driving in new cars and stopping for a Tim Hortons coffee.
Yeah.
It becomes quite complacent.
Yeah.
You don't ever have to get out. Why do I need winter boots?
Driving in your slippers going to McDonald's drive-through. Yeah.
Right? Exactly.
Trying to
Exactly.
find the fucker that stole your size 14s.
Right? Oh man, I knew exactly where he was. I was just trying to get him to come back over, drop him off again. No,
Well, man, I'm sure we could talk for hours and hours more, and we have, and we probably will again, but we'll probably shut this.
it was an absolute pleasure, Les.
yeah,
I
it's
enjoyed
fun,
myself.
man. I
Yeah.
was really looking forward to this.
You never know where the direction of a conversation is going to go with you.
Because you're like one of the guys that I only see like a couple times a year, but you're I'd say one of my close friends.
Yeah,
And
I
we
would
can
say
just
that.
pick
100%.
shit up wherever
it might
left off.
be once or twice every couple of years.
Yep.
There's been times where I've disappeared.
Yeah, I don't know where the hell he is.
Right,
He's
right.
out wrestling some grizzly bear for
bear.
lunch.
And I have. It's a thing, but. They make those movies about, bear wares and stuff like that. And the biggest thing to do is to just have that confidence and that authority, that energy that you're projecting is like, hey,
And
not
also
now.
Be as big as the bear.
Right. It does help being big if not bigger than the bear. Yeah, it does.
But those same principles apply in the life we live here. We just forget about it.
And that bear looked over his shoulder at me and said, I'm walking this way because I want to. You don't mean anything to me. Right? It's great. It's great that you used your big voice, and it's nice that you're holding that little gun, which whatever, but let it be known that I'm walking this way because I want to.
He's in charge.
He's in charge. And I just went, thanks for, that's good. I appreciate that, buddy. You know? Oh, no, he gave me that look.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. Like over the shoulder and just
Who the fuck do you think
lumbering
you
away.
are?
Exactly. You realize you're going to have to kill me?
But that's where I think we forget is how vulnerable and fragile we are.
Oh, at any second.
I think we forget.
Yeah, we do. We
Like
become
just
complacent.
the power goes, if it's November, the power goes out for a week. We're in danger.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. The grocery store closes for a week. We are in danger.
Even something as simple, I took a young fella up north with me this past season, and he didn't have a real strong father figure. He didn't have a real good experience within the social society of school, right? COVID happened, all that kind of stuff it really detached him from everything, right? And there was no level of like self-confidence or even communication, and such a deep second guessing and internal conflict going on in his head, that something as simple as, okay, we're riding in the boat, going upriver. I'm standing there driving. There's a bench seat behind me, which he's sitting on to my left. There's 2 or 3 people on the front of the boat, and because they're in the bow, now this is a big, long, flat river boat. Because it's in the bow, it's pushing it down just a little bit, and it's creating a large spray, but it's a super windy day. So that spray that's coming up off the bow, that's peeling over, the wind is throwing it back on us, right? I'm standing in the middle of the boat, not really maybe a little sprinkle here, a little splash there, nothing spectacular, right? But this young fellow that was sitting basically behind me and off to my left on kind of the edge of the boat was getting rained on, right? Like every single spray that went up, that wind was just blowing it back. And we went up the river for about an hour and a half, right? Mm-hmm. And when we finally get to where we are and we're pulling up on the beach and whatever, and then he goes to stand up, and one of the ladies that was on front is like, "Oh my goodness, like you're soaking wet." And he's like, "Yeah, I was getting a little wet." And I'm looking at him going, "What in the hell, dude? Like you're soaked from head to toe. You are soaked. Like you might as well have gone swimming. That's not cool. Why didn't you stop me and say, Al, slow the boat down a little. I'm going to go sit in the back by the engine. Like I'm getting wet here, because you getting wet is now changing everything. That we're an hour and a half upriver from town. Like you don't have extra clothes. If the weather changes, if it gets cold, if it whatever, like we need to build a fire right now. Yeah. We need to get you dried up. Like this is a situation that you're now putting pressure on me basically, because these other people, it was a nice touristy little river trip, right? Mm-hmm. And they didn't get wet. And if they had have gotten wet, they probably would have said, "Geez, I'm getting a little wet here. Do you mind, let me shift over there, or you got a rain jacket or whatever?" We would have fixed the situation. But because he was so insecure about just life in general and didn't want to speak up, it now created a situation. It's a life and death situation. Yeah. If it gets cold and you're soaked from head to toe and you don't have any extra clothes, you don't have anything, and you didn't communicate with me that, hey, let's shift things around, let's change a bit, because I'm getting soaking wet, right? You've now put an extreme amount of pressure on someone like myself that has to go through. Now, that being said, we were making a bonfire and roasting some hot dogs, and it was summertime, and it was whatever. But I had to drill into his head that said, "Dude, like if we're going out in the wintertime on a snow machine and, your fingers get cold, and you just be like, well, I'm not going to worry about it and whatever, and keep going and keep going." And I say, "Hey, how you doing, man?" And you say, "I'm doing good." And we keep going because I'm doing well. I'm wearing the little base layer, or I've got the proper whatever. Mm-hmm. And I don't stop and double check on you and make sure, just kind of like a baby, like, "Hey, what's going on?" Now, all of a sudden, you're going to get frostbite and lose a finger because what? You didn't want to let me know. You didn't want to communicate, Mm-hmm. So it happened so fast up there. Like it happened with another lady friend of mine who likes to brag about, "Oh, I've mushed in -50. You were out in -50 and you didn't communicate to your partner, and he kept going, and all of a sudden look down at you and you're not responding, and your lips are blue and you're chattering, and you're already wrapped in a sleeping bag in the dog sled, and you're now 45, 50 miles from home. This is not a good situation to be in at all. There's no level of bonfire. There's no level of whatever that's going to be able to bring you back from this. You have to push the medical alert. You have to get the rangers to come out there. Like it was a scary deal. And it's like, "Oh, it wasn't that bad. I was out in -50. Excuse me? Like it was bad. It happened fast, man.
How many people now are prepared for that?
Not many. No, not at all. Especially, and even the ones that say, "Oh, I'm prepared for it, and I've got my, whatever, my mech pack, and I've got my extra, Arc'teryx gloves, and I'm doing this and that," and it's going, yeah, well, that buddy over there with a canvas knapsack and some military surplus wool mittens, and some old moose hide and canvas mucklucks is far more prepared and far more experienced, and will come out a hell of a lot more comfortable than you will with all the fancy, tools and tricks of the trade that don't really actually do anything. Yeah. Why? Because it's going to catch on fire, or it's going to melt, or it's going to any number of things. And now what? You don't have a backup. You try and light a wool jacket on fire and tell me what happens. Try and tear it on a branch. It's tough.
Something about the humility of that, right? Like man versus nature, human versus nature kind of humility. It'll humble you fast. Looking in the eye of a grizzly bear.
There's no room for ego.
Right.
With humility, right? The ego goes out the door.
I think a lot of us have a false sense of strength and power being in such a cozy, safe world. We don't realize, like, if it really was me versus nature, I'd be fucked. But I'm okay because I have someone to keep the power plant going, someone to bring the furnace oil, I have someone to bring the food, I have someone to do the cost. I have all that behind me, right?
I don't think you'd be that fucked, because if you got put in that situation, Les,
I'd probably be better off than some.
you'd figure it out.
But a lot of us in
You'd
our
get
world,
better as you go.
Yeah.
You've got the tenacity to say, hey, like hell, this isn't
Yeah.
stopping me, and I've got no choice.
But I grew up different. I grew up on a farm, trapping animals at 5 years old. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, and that lends itself to the character building that took place in order to bring you to where Les Bar is today, you know, and Bar Talk, which is fantastic, and it's bright and it's engaging. We're not going to, you know, grow a garden from it, right?
Maybe.
You're not going to chop down a bunch of firewood, heat a house.
Hopefully some people learn some stuff.
If they get inspired and go out and do it, then
Well,
that's fantastic.
But I know if there's an apocalypse right now, I have my team right in the room. We got Ryan, the axe thrower over here. We got Ben,
Yeah, yes,
who's
sir.
brilliant. We got you and me. Like,
Hey, and Rummy's the one taking care of all of us. She's over there.
Rummy's
having a nap
the one
on
in
couch.
charge.
Yeah, she is.
We got our
she knows.
apocalypse team right
Hey,
here.
let's go.
Ready to
I'll show
rock.
you a few tricks up north. Let's go.
Let's go.
Right?
All right. Well, awesome. I think we'll end it here because if not, we'll just keep going for 10
Let's
hours.
finish our beer. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe, or if you'd like to support us, please visit Refound Brewing Company at 573 Main Street, Kingston, or buy our product wherever it's available, including our Foolishly Optimistic IPA at your local NSS. Thank you.